Hey, everybody, welcome back to the PROGCAST. And we are in our fifth year of speaking with the most creative and interesting composers and musicians in the world. And today is a special case as I'm going to kind of turn into a fanboy musicologist for some time with guitarist and composer from Meshuggah, Mårten Hagström. How are you, Mårten?
I'm just fine, Greg. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you so much for doing this. I have so much to ask you, and I know that a bunch of the fans have heard about this coming up and have thrown in some questions,
Okay,
musical and otherwise. And I don't hope you don't mind if we'll geek out a little bit on Meshuggah.
I'll go for it.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm down with that.
Okay, good. I think one of the things that I wanted to say is just congratulations on keeping this going and developing and moving forward the way you have. I think it's been an exemplary project of what fruition can be artistically.
Well, thank you first. First of all, yeah, I guess. I mean, we're getting up in the ages now. We're getting older. We've been around for a while. We've been doing this for a long time. So, every once in a while, at least the last couple of years, we kind of been, reflecting on, or at least me, I've been reflecting on what our career has been. Because, when you're in a musical project, and especially for us being, like glued together and pretty much all of us doing the same thing with the same people for a long time, it's been a really rewarding journey. We're really grateful for the spot that we've been able to get to. But I also think that sometimes it's kind of hard to reflect, even though we maybe should. It's like you're so in the middle of it that sometimes we still see ourselves as the upstart oddball band that that we were like as kids when everybody was side eyeing us and going, what are you guys doing? Like even in the like extreme metal genre, whatever progressive genre, it was like, dude, like what are you up to? What's going on? This like Tosin told me once, the first time he heard us, he said, this music is broken. Like
It's
so
correct.
so and I guess us being stubborn and keeping true to our vision and grinding away at our craft, or what do you want to call it, is a unique blessing to be able to do that. Because you can make up all the plans you want, but life gets thrown at you, and people go their different ways. You evolve in different directions. But even though we still have, as musicians and individuals in the band, we still kept this a family thing, and we still kept our joint vision in the forefront, so that we've been able to do this for such a long time. And then, of course, having a moderate, some moderate success has helped us as well. But we're truly grateful.
Hard-earned success.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to compare yourself to other. I mean, a lot of times when I talk to other musicians, they've been in so many different settings. They might have been session musicians. They went to school. They've been in a bunch of bands. But I mean, for me personally, I I got to know Thomas in kindergarten. We were 6. And we started playing at 11, 12 together. Jens and Frederick started playing 13, 14 years of age together. Me and Thomas had this band. When Meshuggah's drummer left, the 2 other guys, me and Thomas were playing with, Pay went south, so they went their other way. They wanted to like pursue other genres. So Thomas left from Meshuggah, and then a year and a half after that, I joined Meshuggah. So, but we've known nothing else.
Right.
So what other, like, I have a hard, I mean, I know other musicians and you see other careers, but being so stuck in this bubble, so to speak, it's been it's I think we worked hard at our craft, but I don't know if it's hard earned. I think we're still just, wow, are we able to do this with this like stubborn and this type of music, and being like, going outside of the box, and still making a career out of it? Because sometimes that's a hard thing. It's the mainstream's always like, trying to reel people in, and we've been lucky enough to resist that.
Well, the originality piece of our love for Meshuggah is something that really stands out. You guys are one of one. Sure, there have been references to you since certain things have occurred sonically, rhythmically, but
Yeah,
I
of
want
course.
to,
Yeah.
but that's you being in the game for over 3 decades. So it's my question would really be to you is your approach to rhythm.
Hmm.
And I've heard you say in other interviews, which I found interesting as a composer, percussionist myself, rhythm is melody.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, it really has. Um, I mean, sure, they're distinct types of thing, especially if you go about it from a theoretical standpoint, But for me, to go to the composing side, whenever I compose or like come up with an idea, it's very rare, and I think this goes for most of the guys in the band, but at least for me, it's very rare that I sit down and start out with a project, a song, or an idea from a mental standpoint, where I go, what if I, or, stuff like that. It's something that it's a compulsion, and it's something that springs to mind. So sometimes I hear a rhythm, sometimes I hear a melody, sometimes I hear both at the same time, and it just pops into my head. And sometimes it's fuzzy, sometimes it's just clear cut. It's like, this is the way it's supposed to be. And that's the spark. And then what you do with that spark, how you treat the spark, how you work at that spark, how you let it lead you to places, how you resonate with that original idea, becomes whatever song or project it turns into. So, and then there might be a lot of work, and then it might be a lot of theoretics, like, what is this really? What is this idea? How is it built? What can I, and then you can, like, mentally intellectualize it, and do something with it. So for me, like with the rhythm is melody, it is, because I mean, how the rhythm works dictates what you can do with a melody, and the other way around, depending on what the original idea was. Being a little fuzzy around the edges here, but you know what I'm getting at. First and foremost, I think, because I talk to a lot of people who are like, well, I write, composers who write music, and they're like, well, I sit down and I'm like, I want to write a fast song. And that has pretty much never happened to me since I picked up the guitar at 12. It's
Yeah.
I have something else that leads me. That it's not my. um I can't take any credit for it. It just happens. It's a reflex. It's a compulsion. Like my wife said, I will never be able to stop it. It's till the day I die. That's like, you can't turn it off or on. It works the way it does.
And do you find that it's working right now?
Well, um,
Let me just say, coming off of a cycle now, as you all have, with Immutable being now 3 years old about,
yep, yep,
and the
yep.
touring cycle that ensues after that, and the look at that material as live vehicles, and how that's all gone down. How does that affect your now you've done this process
A
innumerable
lot.
times.
Yes,
We're in
yes.
this phase of the after cycle process. Where's Morton's head at?
Well, at the moment, I really think I'm in a exhale phase. Because, like you said, we've done this a long time. We've done this cycle, and coming out on the back end of the touring for Immutable, I think I'm a bit, not like in a bad way, but creatively spent, and that's something that happens because it's you first you write stuff and you record it, and then you go out and you almost like the crowd, you relate to it, you learn what you actually did. It's like, oh, I didn't realize it at the time, but this is this kind of song, and this I thought would work well in a live environment, and it doesn't, and it's obvious why it doesn't. But this works really well, and I didn't think it would. You know, stuff like that. So you learn about your own music in many ways, with like going out and touring with it, because it's a more visceral reaction to stuff. You know, it's like more straight from the heart. So, and you see it resonate like in different ways, and you get reactions. So, but for me, I tend to, and this is mostly true, that with the as we've grown older, or as I've grown older, it takes a longer time for me to get up and running again, the ball rolling for the creative process. So right now, my ideas are few and far between comparatively, because what happens when we start a creative process, what happens when we decide to write an album, and I sit down and I have a couple ideas that maybe were left over from the last time, and I'm just picking things up, you know, getting back into the groove of it. That sparks the imagination, so that I get more ideas. But in order to have the energy to just feel like getting into a creative process, to shoulder that burden. It's not a burden per se, but to feel that you have the energy to go through the emotional gauntlet that a making of an album is: writing, rehearsing, debating, you know, recording, all of that. You need that exhale, you need that like downtime for the mind, and that's where I am right now.
You
I'm
know, it's so interesting that you say that because consistently I've heard from, say, Andy Partridge or XDC or Pat Metheny,
Yeah.
there's intake mode, there's output mode, and there's
Yes.
off.
Yes. And I think depending on who you are as a person and the way you're wired, those periods come in different, you know, order, and they come they're like, some people are just like, all right, I had a week down, that's it, I need to get back into the swing of things. And some people, I think, take have to have more time to just recuperate and get that energy back. And I think I, I hope I'm not a lazy person, because I know that when I write, I work a tremendous lot, like many hours a day for months and months and months, and I'm just into the zone. And having that bubble mentality, I think most composers do, but I believe, but makes you have to, like, it's like working out. You need to kind of get in shape in order to be able to do it for that kind of stretch of time. Yeah, mentally get in shape. And that's where I am personally. But I know that, I mean, Frederick's work in his studio with his stuff and his projects and the bands that he and Don the Baddiston are working with producing. We most of us have stuff at home that we've been, you know, pushing to the side, that because we've been out touring, that we need to take care of practical stuff, renovating the house, stuff like that, you know. But I know Dick has started to fiddle around a little bit, just for fun, not like seriously writing, but, you know, messing around with stuff. So I think it's a natural thing where there's a vacuum, and then you all of a sudden start feeling that maybe it's about time to, you know, and then this, you know, it's subconscious, and it starts working, and it tells you like, okay, now you need to do stuff. Here's an idea. Here's
Are you a fan of David Lynch's films?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen anything of David Lynch, but I love the Twin Peaks original series. I love Mulholland Drive and a lot of stuff from his. But it's been, I love his surreal take on reality.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about surrealism and futurism in Meshuggah, but here's the reason I bring up Lynch is now that he's passed, a lot
Yes.
of interviews are coming up on my feed, and I'm watching them, and the quote that over and over and over again is, "The process starts when you fall in love with an idea."
Yes. Yes. That's 100% true. Because honestly, what is music? I guess it's a bit of semantic exercise, but like, what is music? It's emotions, you know, right? First and foremost, it doesn't matter how progressive it is, how primal it is, whatever. It's emotion and how it speaks to other people, and it speaks to you as a
And
composer. And
and
that
on
love that's got to be there. If you don't love what you're doing, it's going to show, you know?
Yes. And I also like the very broken down version that Verez gave us, which is it's organized sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's what it is.
So it's
And
emotions, but it's somehow transported into sound.
yeah, yes, yes. But it's like, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing, because even though people mostly can be come to an agreement on this is a sad song, this is whatever. But if you move into certain territories, people are like, this is very serene, and no, no, this is frightening. This is so
Atmospheres.
emotional. The experience is personal, like eye of the beholder, the famous eye of the beholder thing. But it's like, for me, it's what you were saying is so true. If For me, it's essential that I fall in love with an idea and have that be kind of setting the tone for what the rest that is to come for an album, if I'm writing for an album, is to be. You know, it puts me in a mindset, and not only like an intellectual mindset, but mostly an emotional mindset, where you feel that, oh, I gotta be true to this idea. I gotta take this someplace. I need to see where this is going. It's almost like being like, along on the ride for the journey yourself. It's not like,
Mhm.
well, I'm masterminding all of this stuff. It's like, wow, I never imagined that this song would turn into this. How extraordinary, and how much I like it, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
being in love with this stuff is important.
And the thing that I see it manifest in Meshuggah in different ways, but one thing to me is there's this concept that Boulez had spoken about, which I see common in your music, which is about constant renewal.
Hmm.
I don't see many cases of Meshuggah material repeating literally upon repeats.
No, it's more, and this is an important, interesting topic when it comes to, I think, music in general, and maybe especially with our music. I think it's a dualistic kind of thing, because on the one hand, you're 100% right. We always try to break a little bit new ground. Like, okay, so but we're still in the same car. We're still in the same vessel. We're not all of a sudden doing acoustic sessions or whatever. We're adhering to a certain set of standards that are not um, like theoretical per se. It's not like we have to do it this way, and in order for it to be a Meshuggah thing, but it has to resonate sound wise. So what's the sound, the fingerprint that we've built? You know, same way, to take a totally different band. I often use them as an example. AC/DC. So you know what they are supposed to be doing, and their set of rules are very narrow, but it's those narrow rules within those very narrow three-chord rock concept that they apply their fingerprint so that you can hear instantly that this is AC/DC. And the same principle works for us. It's just very different tenets to we try to achieve. You know, we have a different concept playground where we move, but than AC/DC does. But it's still, you know, we have this ballpark, and we try to move to different parts of the field for every album. You know, take with us stuff we've learned, take with us what we've grown. That's why we're not doing Chaosphere 10 times in a row, because we did the rabid dog thing on Chaosphere, but we keep a little bit of the rabid dog and we bring it along. And then, okay, what's interesting to us now? What's interesting to us next album cycle? Because in order for you to fall in love with the idea, as we were talking about, it has to be according to your taste. And you're not the same person as an 18-year-old
Exactly.
as a 40-year-old. So the way I want to express myself when I was 22 is way different than what I want to do today. But I still want it to be recognizable as the, you know, the sound is going to be recognizable for what we've always achieved, you know?
And I think that is you guys are in the high 90 percentile on that. I mean, it's just a success rate of albums that you've done that are stacked.
Thanks.
But really, when you talk about exhaustion, and certainly when I look at a run of your contributions from Obzen through Colas through Violent Sleep to you doing the lion's share of Immutable writing.
Yeah.
You're doing lyrics and music.
Yeah, I do lyrics as well, but I'd like to say that Thomas is doing the lion's share of the writing when it comes to lyrics. I'm the one dude that does like one or two or maybe three lyrics for an album. Because sometimes it's like I have a musical idea, but I don't really have a concept of what I want it to be about, but sometimes I do.
How about when
Sometimes
you
it's
do?
very good.
How about when you do?
When I do, it's when I fall. To put it like this, when I fall in love with the idea, the musical idea, and start to and see that evolving, work at it, and it starts to turn into a song. When I maybe have an intro riff or and another part and maybe something else that might not even end up in the finished song, but that like really makes you know, okay, this is what it's about. Then it sparks the idea of to like, okay, how would I express this in a lyric? You know, how would this make sense to express in a lyric over this type of music? You know, and that's when I start writing the lyrics. It's very, it never happens. Thomas might have like, you know, 30, 40 lyrics laying around, and then he discards the old stuff because this is old. But he can like be, oh, you have this song, do you have a lyric for it? No, I don't. And he's like, well, maybe this would, what do you think about this? I don't work that way. It's always like, okay, the music dictates what I feel the lyrics should be about. So that's how it works.
So if you come to him with the material from Pravis, and he hears that material, you tell him what it feels like, and he runs with it. Is that
no? It's more like that's a good example. It's like, okay, here's a song that I have. It's pretty cool. I'm half done with it. What? I don't have a lyrical idea to this one. I don't feel what this should be about. Do you? And then he's like, and he's very good at this. He's very good at his craft as a lyrical, like, you know, composer, because he very much like, he sits down and is like, and he tries to feel what does this strike me as, and then he first goes to like, do I have something that might be perfect for this? And it's like more of a just not like a hunch kind of thing. It's like gut feeling. He's like, maybe this lyric would work. But sometimes he's like, well, I don't have anything that I think is suitable for this, but let me work on it. And he's like, okay. After a while, it's like, dude, what do you think about this type of lyric? I wrote a little piece here. and it's kind of about this. What does that feel like to you? Is that suitable? And most of the time, pretty much always, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's awesome, because he's got great ideas. So it's,
Listen, just for the fans, from us to you, the lyrics are really important to us, and the lyrics are deep.
oh,
And
thanks.
the word choice is off the charts. And the fact that I have to be looking up definitions of words from a guy whose English is his second language and mine is my first language, I really appreciate that. The
Well,
way
thanks a lot.
the way I did with Marvel Comics when Stan Lee would write words
Yeah,
but for Namor, like
yeah.
progeny, I'd be like, oh, what's this? And so I got to thank Stan for improving my vocabulary. So thank you to Meshuggah also for that, and Thomas, because yes, had the opportunity with my son to stand outside of I guess Violent Sleep in Philly and have a chat with Thomas, and we talked about the worldview piece, the worldview that is really when I was saying the fruition of a project becoming the best version of itself, the
Yes.
guys that you're staying on this worldview of looking at situations and having different ways to say, quote, verbalize some of the thoughts and feelings about contemporary life, which
Yeah.
I guess is why we think you guys are the deeper shit, is you bring that too. Can you speak
Well,
about that a little bit?
I think we try to. It's this very particular language is a bit of a disassociative move, because it gets more open to interpretation than having to say save the trees, please, or stop violence, or
Well,
this is a bad
broken
idea.
cog is on the nose.
Yeah. Some of it is very on the nose, but you can be very precise, and then you can be very indirect.
Sure.
But the general idea is like sometimes it's a worldview, how we see the world, how we see certain things develop, our individual take on certain things, and sometimes. And this is most of the time more my cup of tea, is that it's about describing a certain frame of mind, or a place where you are. Like, every human being goes through, like, ups and downs in life. You might run into a bad patch, you might feel like shit, you might have a hubris for certain amounts, and you get taken down to earth, and you realize that maybe I shouldn't have, and trying to express those types of roller coasters in lyrics is also a very important tool for us to, like, connect with the music. So it's a little bit of both, Sometimes it's very worldview on the nose, and sometimes it's more, I don't know. Esoteric is not the right word, but you know what I'm
I
getting
know
at.
what you're saying, and so I'm just going to geek for a second and ask you: is the Koloss all of existence?
Well, uh, here's a funny thing. Kolos for us,
Yeah,
Kolos is like, was actually, we always like when things can take on different meanings, and it was sort of an idea for what you were saying was an afterthought of ours, that, like, well, this could like represent everything, but the literal first idea was way more simple. Coloss as being huge, being a massive something, was more as just, this is a massive piece of sound, just literally very square, and so that was the first, like, idea. But then when we thought about, like, when Thomas started when Thomas found the Karish cover, when that started our collaboration with him, it kind of took a second meaning and a third meaning, because then it became more cerebral and started to like mean more of a representation of like everything, or at least everything that we've accomplished. It was like we saw it as kind of like, here's the representation of what we've been doing so far. Here's the entirety of our experience as musicians, and where that landed at that moment.
You guys are that cerebral, and it's one of the things that we love about you, and that you see the group's music resonate into various corners of non-metal music. Have you been at all following the covers of your material?
Well, yeah, I mean, I try to not be like on the internet a lot, and not like, I try to not take in too much of like what's said about us, and not that I'm not sensitive to it. It's not that.
I wanted you to hear that there's an church organ version of Past Tense.
Yes, that one I've seen. I've heard that, and I was amazed. A friend of mine sent it to me.
Good.
Like, I think it was like, I don't think it was even a week after the album was released. And it was really fast, something like a week or something like that. Because I was like, how is this possible? It's like, and it was so cool. I really enjoyed that a lot, and I've seen a bunch of cover stuff, like, people send it to me, and I always appreciate it, because just the sheer fact that one is awesome. I really, really enjoy that one. But the sheer fact that people get inspired enough to actually take the time to rehearse this stuff, have takes on it, versions of it, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
And we're really appreciative of that, because somehow that's been the idea from the start. We've been inspired by the quirky and weird, and the outside the box. That's the stuff. So in order for us to be able to, at least a little bit, have somebody go, this is really cool, I want to make something of this. This makes me inspired to do something. It's mind-blowing.
So have you heard the acoustic version of the Ride Out of Straws?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Okay, so you have to hear that.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Because that is, and maybe we'll throw it in here for a second and then in post, but I really think that he captures what is the case in both the organ piece and this acoustic guitar piece, which is that the material is the material. The idea is the idea. And if it's a good idea, you can reorchestrate it 1,000 different ways.
Yes.
And I want to say to you, as a composer who does a lot of rearranging of stuff, that settings really bring out what's beautiful about something.
I agree.
Mårten, what for you, when we talk about the emotional piece and we talk about instrumental and chord choices, what is that ride out of Straws for you? Because I could tell you mine. Can you tell me yours?
Well,
because people think it's heavy as fuck, right?
Yeah. But I mean, for me, it's like when I wrote that song, and when I, especially when I wrote and recorded the melody lead at the end, because it's like it's a juxtaposition to what the earlier part of the song is, because that's kind of starts out primal, then it kind of gets kind of messy and really disjointed, and it goes through this kind of it's this ugly primal beast that kind of loses its joints and then like falls into this more subdued and melancholic kind of thing, and I would say, like, if I had to put a word on it, it's melancholic, because it's kind of sad, because it's that, and that's that's something that I don't know why, but it's always like my favorite parts in other types of music, not maybe heavy music per se, but like are almost always where it's not openly minor chord sad, not like
Bittersweet.
but bittersweet. That's the spot I truly I really love that. When I hear something that hits that spot, or if I can write something that hits that spot, and it's for me, it was kind of a because this was from nothing, and nothing we hadn't done as many things that reminds like later we've done some stuff that's been like that, but that was the first time where it's kind of a deconstruction of a brutal song, a pretty up tempo and primal song, and then it goes through this midsection that kind of like just tears that all apart and like flows out into this emotional release, which is bittersweet. And that's for me the emotion. That's where the song for me lands. The first part is totally useless without the release in the end.
Well, then talk to me about the form on They Move Below.
Oh, that was I that song was kind of of the songs I wrote for Immutable, that's my favorite.
Mine too.
Because it rips it. First of all, it's instrumental, which
Yeah.
is kind of where me and Thomas started out. I mean, we started out with an instrumental thrash metal rush kind of prog kind of thing going as kids. So for me, this was kind of a way to like reincorporate what we did as kids, but with all the tools and knowledge and the where I am now, the way I've hopefully matured as a songwriter and all that stuff. So and They Move Below is the title is connected to that. I don't know. It's supposed to tear at you because there's so much like darkness in that track, but there's a lot of melancholy and bittersweetness too. That's a representation of an emotional journey. It's kind of um, a breakdown of emotions. What happens to you when you really find yourself in a place where you've lost, you maybe lost a person close to you, sadness, sorrow, but with the glimmer of something. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to put a word on it, but it's supposed to tear at you, and it's supposed to be droning, and it's supposed to be long-winded the way that it is. It's supposed to be allowed to breathe, because most of our, even like Catch 33 and a lot of like the longer pieces that we've done, it's like there's a restlessness, that we go into this and then we have to go into this. This is a very stable chunk of music which
Section.
still goes through. It's like a long journey, but it's so long. I think a lot of people find it a bit too repetitive, but that's the point. It's kind of a
Oh, it's a vibe.
progressive stoner mindset, if you if you get
If
what I
you
mean.
want, but at the same time, I guess this idea of moving through sections and where that one resolves
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
is I said to myself, you know what, in a solo guitar setting, in moments throughout the discography, those are Mårten chords.
yes,
Here
yeah.
are Mårten chords in an instrumental. Are you the chord guy on Violent Sleep too?
No, I don't. I mean, the song itself is Dick and Thomas.
No. I want to say, I'm sorry. Let me
On
rephrase the
the
question. In general, in their band's material, are you bringing as much chord stuff as Frederick is?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't thought about it that way, but I would think that I probably do more of that than, because I mean, all for instance, all of the calm like interludes that we have, past tense, last vigil,
Like,
acrid placidity, if you go back way back, all of those are mine. So the clean part in the midsection of Future Breed Machine is mine.
Oh,
So
that's you. Okay, right.
yeah, well, yeah, and that's actually a little funny misconception. Frederick is credited. We don't do this now. We credit very fairly, and this was just by happenstance. It wasn't like Frederick was trying to take credit for something he didn't do. But
It happened.
Future Breed Machine is one of those songs where Jans actually wrote two of the riffs, and I wrote the mid part, and I wrote the verse and the pre-chorus, the first pre-chorus, and
You
then
wrote
Frederick.
dun 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 dun.
That's mine, and then that's mine. But Frederick's is the intro, and that's Frederick's, and then that's Jens. So what Frederick did is what he took an idea I had with three parts. It was the extended version of the verse, the last part of it, and the pre-chorus and the clean part. And then he rearranged it and used and incorporated Jens stuff and his own riffs, and so it was him like building it all together into a song.
You know,
So that's why it's the way it is.
shout out to Brian Beller of the Aristocrats, who told me that when they first heard that, the moment it came out, and I was not there for this, but when it first came out, it was life changing.
Well, I guess that's a really good way to have like someone critique your
It's
stuff.
a
If it's
game
life changing, it's
changer.
good.
Listen, everything in that piece saying this is Meshuggah to, a mock whatever, and here's our new direction, Jazz Odyssey. Like and the fact that then that progresses to the next period. And that we see this, there's a thing that I admire about bands that are multi-decade about this developmental thing. And what are the issues that you're approaching in each piece, and how you really choose your subjects wisely. There's very often no more than 3 subjects per composition. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah,
in the
no,
later
no,
stuff?
no. That's true. That's probably true. So some of this stuff is kind of hard for me because we've not that our discography is huge, but we've recorded a fair amount of albums and songs, and I really sometimes I'm like when you ask me stuff and I'm like in other interviews I get a question, I'm like, I don't know, because I haven't really thought about that, like how it's represented. Is it always like that? Maybe, but with that point, I would say it stands. Yes.
And when there's collaborative material like on Catch and on what parts are yours on those? Do you recall?
Oh no, I don't. I don't remember all of it. I know. I don't remember, and it's so much because to begin with, Catch. The first riff I know is Jens. That I know, but here's why it's kind of hard to remember what's what for that one. The way we wrote that is a way that we'd never written anything else. That project was a concept idea that we've had for a long time. I don't know when it came up for the first time, but the idea was that at some point, wouldn't it be cool if we did kind of a nightmarish psychosis soundtrack in a metal, like our progressive version of
Irrational.
what, yeah. So like something but not constrained into here's a song, here's another song that ties into this one, but just as a classical composer, almost. Here's a big work and chunk of music, and that's what I did with They Move Below, but I did it in a more reduced kind of setting, and because we've always been very attracted to that kind of whole what you can do when you allow something to move and be expressed over so long and tied together. So the idea was that, okay, what happens if we just make this whole symphony or whatever you want to call it, like nightmarish
Large
type of deal.
scale work.
Yeah, and how would that be? So then we realized when we started with capture, when we realized that this is something we should do now. We've been talking about it for a while. We all feel inspired by the idea. But how do you go about that? Because it's one thing if you like collaborate, like me and Thomas over a song, or Dick and Thomas on a song. It's bite-sized, even though there might be long songs. It's bite-sized work together. How do we approach? And then it was the four of us. It was me, Jens, Thomas, and Frederick, because Dick hadn't joined by then. So that one was like, we realized that, okay, the best way to go about this, and I think it was Frederick's idea, was like, how about we write this album thing in the same computer? So we have this project at our studio in Thomas's computer, as it were, and this Cubase project, because we always use Cubase for demos and like writing, and we just work there. So whoever comes up with an idea goes in and like, okay, here's okay, and then it's like, okay, that's a good starting point, perfect. Then what? So we lived, me and Frederick especially, we basically lived at the studio. You know, we went out drinking, we did stuff like that, but you know, it's like and Jens would come in for 4 days and then go away for 2 days. Thomas was there most of the time, and people were coming in and out and writing, and I would go away for 3 days and I'd come back, and there was like 4 new things written to the project, and then we'd debate, okay, should this stay? Are we all cool with this? And maybe, maybe that was not okay, and then we take that away. But this was really cool, and maybe we should do this and move this to later, because this feels like something that's more of a conclusion of this one. So a lot of like just brainstorming towards the same Cubase project and letting it just, we hadn't set a stop. It's like this takes us where and it ends where it ends. When we feel it ends, it ends. And then we just worked away at the studio for I don't know how long. It was a long time. So and that's why I personally, I think that's the most creatively rewarding project we've ever done, just because of the sheer fact that it was 4 guys fluently going in and out of the same creation process, but still together and still editing as we went along to like end up with what that came out to be. And you can't work like that all the time, and it wouldn't work for us to like do it again, you know. It was one of those, you know, once in a lifetime. It's just the mood was right, we were in our lives where it worked. It was just perfect. It was really, really rewarding. I think back fondly on those days.
I'm so happy to hear that, because it is a fan favorite, and it is a beautiful composition and collaboration.
Yeah, but that's why I can't
Example.
say who did what. I think Frederick would have a better. He's more. He's more an accountant like that. He knows. He remembers more of like, okay, no, that was yours, and I came up, you know, for those ones. But and I was more of a, started out as a improvised kind of deal. It was like Thomas messing around with different figures. Like, here's the rules. You can go with like, and you can like use those figures and do whatever you want with them and repeat and take away as much as you want. And then you record it until it like feels like we got enough parts to make it sound good, you know, like here's like it's interesting, it's rolling into the next like bar in a nice way. It doesn't stutter, it keeps energy up, but it's erratic at the same time. And then just Frederick dubbed it with the guitar. But then like when the first stop after the intro of the song, then it's like written stuff, so to speak, like where we wrote like part for part.
And lyrically, that's you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the idea that I had for it was I was like, so this, since that's also a very, because when we wrote the lyrics for Catch 33, it's both me and Thomas, but mostly Thomas, but some of it's me. So when we collaborated on that, I had this idea that I couldn't incorporate in Catch 33 because we were collaborating, because of the way we wanted that project, like collectively, the way we wanted it to be represented lyrically. But I had this, and it's not a, this is not a especially novel idea. It's just that, like, what is it like to be a mind, a person, or an entity, or whatever, that is very, very, very convinced that you are like the end of times. You are like the catalyst for the end of the world. But at the same time, you have this nagging suspicion that maybe this is not true. Maybe this is a delusion. Maybe I'm just in a psychosis. So it's basically a description of a severe psychosis. You know, and the do like of going in and out of it. Like, so how come I'm the ender of all times, and I'm the end, like the start of everything, the end of everything? I'm basically God in one sense. But then again, I all of a sudden realized that here's these things that I can't control. And I'm in environments that I can't control, like going in and out of like real, like a psychosis reality and real reality, and shifting between, and which is what, you know, it's like that. It's a kind of a psychosis way of seeing the dreaming versus wake state. So are we really awake when we're awake, or is our dreaming world the real world? You know, pretty basic and not so novel stuff. It's been covered from writers and poets for like hundreds of years. But it's our take on it. You know?
Why is your vocabulary so good?
First of all, a lot of Swedish people, I mean, all Swedish people are taught English from very early on. That's one thing. But I think me and Thomas both have fairly easy to adapt to other languages. Fairly. I'm not saying that I'm like, you know, a linguistic whiz or whatever, but it's we've always took to English pretty easily as kids. But I would say that our formative years, like being in our teens, made a big difference, because we're huge sci-fi, horror, fantasy nerds, especially horror and sci-fi. So we read a lot, both of us read a lot. And I started my English, my teacher, when I was, I think, 12. She was like, you're not doing these assignments in English class. You're reading Agatha Christie. And that made a difference. Me, like, starting to read English early on. So I read a lot, and most of, like, I would say the biggest lyrical, and, you know, like, as how you use phrases and how you word certain things, that inspired me and Thomas the most is Clive Barker. And Clive Barker has a very, very saturated vocabulary. He's, I mean, he a little bit over the top sometimes. But when you're 14 and you're reading like that stuff, and we're reading it in English, in his native language, it takes you places. And it suggests, I would suggest that English is a very, it's very inherent to prose. It's a language that's, I mean, I don't know a lot of other languages, so maybe I'm just being stupid. But compared to Swedish, you can be express yourself very, in very cool ways in Swedish. But there's certain things, and maybe that's because it's our second language, but there are ways that you can use English for certain purposes lyrically that I think I have a hard time seeing with Swedish. So it was very inspirational for us.
And is Lovecraft big for you guys?
Oh man, I mean, to me, They Move Below is a Lovecraftian piece of music. That's why it's like They Move Below is a bit about the subconscious. It alludes to musical subconscious, but it also alludes to, you know, the Lovecraftian madness, if you will. So yeah, Lovecraft was huge for me. I read it was a long time ago, but I plowed through so many Lovecraft books and novels like on repeat. I mean, I don't know how many times I've read The Mountains of Madness at the Mountains of Madness. I mean, it's just it was so inspirational to us, and I love that stuff.
Other authors?
Well, I
Blake?
yeah, I've read Blake, but here's the thing
Kafka?
that what?
Kafka?
Yes, I read Kafka, and I love Kafka. But a problem for me is that around where Meshuggah took off, I've still read a lot, but kind of put reading to the wayside. I mean, I've because it's sort of I started reading other stuff like Robert Anton Wilson and stuff like that. You know, like other things that were not fiction. You know,
Hitchens?
non-fiction. Yeah, I've read Hitchens too, and I back then I was really inspired by it. Now I have a different vantage point when I view all of these things, and especially I've learned a lot from Robert Anton Wilson. Actually, just that you never like the Chapel Perilous idea was the first time anybody introduced me to that idea was from him. It's not his idea, but it's like how you 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 should be able to like immerse yourself so much in something so that you almost lose your identity in order to actually be able to understand where other people are coming from. The only problem is how do you step back to what was once you, and how much of what you learned do you want to bring with you? So it's some, you know. So I stopped ruminating too much on that stuff when I realized that in order for this to take a big part of my life, it would basically prohibit me from having a musical career. Because then it would all be mind games, you know. So
Understood.
I stopped, but I mean I read a lot of like I mean I love Stephen King to have something more like you know mainstream. I mean I enjoy writers who like with music makes me happen like puts me in a certain type of mood like Lovecraft does. I mean, his lyrically, he's more persuasive than eloquent. You know, it's like hammering the madness, insanity, eons, the massiveness, and the ancient, all that. He hammers those words again and again. It's magic, you know, or magic. It's like repeating phrases until they become true. So where Barker is like I mean, Thomas actually stole this one line from him in Glint's Collide. That's actually from a phrase, I don't remember what novella it is from, but it's like, ice glint, knife glinted, glints collide. Like being stabbed in the eye. A very eloquent way of representing an assault in a back alley where somebody actually stabs you in the face. And I remember me and him loving that phrase. How it was very simple and very rudimentary, but still in that book it came together. So he incorporated. It doesn't mean the same thing in his lyrics, but he incorporated that. So there's a way of being eloquent, and there's a way of being more rudimentary and brutish with it's like reading Lovecraft is like a little bit like thinking about commercials. You repeat it long enough and often enough, it makes an impact whether you like it or not. And if you look at Lovecraft's like whole, all the things he wrote, there's always this like repetitive mantra of the same
Relentless.
words. Yeah.
I,
And I love that.
I think it's effective because the clarity thing, that's a piece of Meshuggah. We accomplished what we set out to say in this. We're out.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. When I look at something like Stifled, is that your chord coda on that?
No, that's Dick and Thomas song.
Those chords that lead into
Yeah.
Nostrum?
Yeah. That's awesome. But Dick is very. I mean,
Well, he studied with Anders Jorman, right?
yeah, but that's the thing. He's theoretically way more advanced than we are because we go with the guts. We none of us studied. None of us studied music. We're self-taught most.
And this is ear.
It's all ear. But he actually studied. So he likes to. Sometimes he uses that as an approach for when he and Thomas writes. So as like you could tell that like he's got a theoretical idea of what he wants.
Yeah, he
to.
sets up cells of
Yeah.
notes, and then things are very organized in a different way with his stuff.
Yeah, but it's from a more theoretical standpoint than a gut feeling thing. I believe I haven't me and Dick. I mean, I used to write together with Thomas, but the last couple of albums, because of the sheer way just things naturally progressed, it's been that I've been writing on my own, and then Dick and Thomas have been starting collaborating from Violent Sleep to because Dick started writing for Violent Sleep, so it's the last two albums he's been present as a composer.
Yeah.
But me living up north still, or moved back up north a bunch of years ago, and the other guys are in Stockholm. So it's like I'm on a little bit of an island. so I work on my own now, and Thomas and Dick. It's sometimes I think that when he works with Thomas as on Stifled, and it's not an original idea of his, or it's really a collaboration. I think he applies more of a theoretical approach when Thomas has rhythmical ideas, and I guess that just natural. It makes sense naturally.
Well, can I ask you about Light the Shortening Fuse?
Mm-hmm.
So this is your lyric and your music?
Yes.
What are you addressing? I mean, there's been so much that we resonate with. When I say Stifled, just this like having had it with authoritarians,
Yes.
right? I mean, just
Yeah.
having had it, it's just
Yeah.
go away.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you guys address the bullshit that we have to deal with globally, really now.
Yeah.
I know Thomas has spoken about addressing world issues. In the case of the Broken Cog, I think that it really speaks for itself. We see the stochastic events happening now.
Yeah.
But talk about some of those other compositions.
Well, like the Shooting Fuse is let's see, how should I put this? It's not really. That's one of the bit more like on the nose, like worldview kind of things. It deals with all the anger, all the kempt up anger, like so that people are pissed off about so many things, different things. So sometimes you don't have to be on anybody's side or carry their opinion. You just have to make them believe that you are on their side and that you're tapping in to what they believe and what they're frustrated about. Because if you do, you're going to get an army, a mass of people who will kind of do your bidding. And you don't have to go far to see the political version of this pretty much everywhere in Western society right now, where it's like it's more important to be disgruntled and have disgruntled people feel that this guy is disgruntled with me, and you litigate like stuff that's been preached like by dictators and people back in the day, and you can point to that, but people's like, I don't care. There's this book this guy in Sweden wrote about like rumor spreading, or about being factual, actually being correct about things. And the book is called, how should I translate this? The title of the book is, I know it's not true, but I think it sucks anyway. And it's a quote from this guy who had all this like wild, like beliefs about things that were easy to fact check,
Yeah, right.
that this didn't happen. This was actually an urban legend, but you chose to believe it because of your biases.
Right.
And when he got confronted with that, he says, well, I know it's not true, but I think it sucks anyway. Which kind of, it's retarded, right? But it shows the mindset of people that it's not an intellectual, and this is something I think a lot of political commentators and people who debate lose track of. It's not always that you can prove something, because then that would be going by scientific standards, which is great. If everybody could disconnect their emotions and go by scientific standards, awesome. But is that how we work as humans? No. When you're scared, when you're hungry, when you're envious of someone, that's not what's talking. That's why we have religion, in my point of view, my humble point of view. And I'm not saying religious people are bad. I'm saying it's a vessel of control. Because if you can tap into fears, if you can say, if you do this, you'll end up here, or these guys are coming here to take this from you.
Was it Orwell that said it's the opiate of the masses?
Exactly.
It was,
And it's yeah, I think it's Orwell. I think it is, and it's very true. And I mean, this is nothing new.
You guys growing up the way you did were not exposed to religion. Is that correct?
Well, Sweden used to be a really religious country, but now it's one of the least religious countries on the planet, I think. But me and Thomas, though, we grew up where I live, and that's a pretty religious. Not today, but it used to be heavily religious.
In what way?
The second. Well, it was the. It's a small town, and it's had the most churches, second to only like another southern city, Jönköping. So it's like called like it's known for having a lot of churches and different types of churches.
From Roman,
really like Christian, yeah, like Roman, not Roman Catholics. That's not representative here, but it's like pretty much the Swedish church, which is like the old church. Like it's religion. I think if you go back a couple of generations, was pretty prevalent in Sweden altogether. Like different types of Christians. Religions, Christian Orthodox or whatever, but different Christian branches, and it depends on where you are in Sweden, which one was the most prevalent. But I grew up personally seeing what I didn't realize it at the time, why I was angry about it, and I couldn't conceptualize why I felt it was so wrong and so hypocrite. But for me, it was like, because I had like my granddad, he was on my mother's side, he was very religious, but he was one of the most awesome dudes I ever met. He was really cool because he never tried to write it on he didn't care whether I believed or not. He was so content in like where he was at. He wasn't trying to like tell everyone else what to believe, which is the only way I think a true, like if you're a person of faith, that's where you should start out. I don't have to make everyone else believe, because then it's a control vessel. Then it's power moves. But if you're fine, you can believe whatever you want, according to me. It's like, go for it. You can have whatever concepts you want in your mind. I can't tell you how to live your life.
Have you always been this intellectual, or did over time and travel? Because I always tell people, my students, anybody that will listen, having been around the world, you just start to have a worldview that shows you that there are certain basic truths about humanity.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I totally think that's true. I would like to say that. I mean, I'm guessing, but because I've always been me, so I can't compare. But but
But
I
you
think
learned a
it's
lot.
yeah, and I think it has nothing to do with being intellectual or I'm a dumb motherfucker. I'm not like smarter than anyone else. It's just that I've been put in different situations around the world in order to realize that I had a misconception about this was what this was going to be, and it's not that at all. And sometimes it's for the worse, and sometimes it's for the better. But you realize that there are so, like from Sweden, for instance, that there are so many concepts and beliefs that are prevalent in this society, and this is true for the U.S. as well. It's like living in a bubble. I remember the first time I was in the U.S. I was in Pennsylvania in Lancaster, where I did interviews. This was in 95, 96. And I talked to a bunch of people who worked at the label there, and we were at this party. And I remember thinking, it's like, because I was like in Pennsylvania, I was like, and me and our then manager Patrick, we stayed for a week in New York coming in. So we stayed in New York on Manhattan, and we stayed a night on Manhattan going out, flying out. And I was talking about how, like, New York, first time for me was so awesome, and blah, 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 blah. And these guys were like, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was like, what do you mean sounds cool? I'm New York, New York? No, never been. And I was like, are you telling me you live in Pennsylvania? And you're like 25, 28, 30 years old? And you've never been to New York? None of you three guys? No. And to me, that was mind-boggling. Just that thing. It's probably not that strange, but to me, it was just, how are you living in the United States, close to one of the capitals of the world, and none of you have, not on a school trip. No, I mean,
Seeing
because if
travel.
you're from the north, if you're from the northern part of Sweden, pretty much every kid after the age of 15 has sometime been to Stockholm on one occasion or another. And it's a 6-hour drive, 7-hour drive, you know? So, and I guess, well, they got Philadelphia, that's even closer, and it's a big city, so why do you go to New York? I get that now. But for me, small things like that, it doesn't have to be like, oh, what about this and their beliefs, but small things that makes you realize that there are so many things to the fabric of society in the country, even Western, pretty similar countries, that are very different simply for how it's structured and tradition. So when you go to India, you go to South America, you go to Japan, you realize that there are so many nuances to this that having a carte blanche statement for everything is in itself pretty stupid, and that humbles you. It should humble you, at least.
I have to
So,
say, I love where I am in New Jersey, but I don't think of it as the center of the universe. I think it's a big universe.
yeah.
I think all the factors that unfortunately, as a historian, I see line up in ways that are disturbing, and so the way you guys respond to that is really important to someone like me, who is working more in jazz or new music, but at the same time, just pushing forms.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and another big form piece I wanted to ask you about was Mind's Mirror, uh, Life, Death, Death, Death.
Hmm. Death is life, life is death. Yeah. Uh, that is Thomas. That part is Thomas lyrically. over those.
But these are
But it,
really long, wrought out ideas,
yeah,
right?
yes, very much. Musically, what's fun about those are that this is after the fact. I have to say that, otherwise people would think that we're, because you know about like the math metal or whatever, you know, like we're calculating stuff.
Okay,
That never happens.
that's
That never
fine.
happens.
Okay.
But we just go with something or a structure or an emotion or a
But
feeling.
why is it always
But
4/4?
but yeah, it's always, that's the thing. It's always 4/4 because it, to us, odd time signatures. I mean, there are some odd time signatures represented in our music. For instance, the clean part of Future Breeding Machine is not a 4/4. Well, it is a 4/4 if you expand it to full revolution, then it turns into a 4/4. But you could say it's a 7/4 as
Do
well.
you guys
But
think that way?
well, after the fact.
But eventually
So
you can hear big forms like that?
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
figured.
most of the time it's like you always try to like be based in where the 4/4
Right,
is.
right.
So it's always about the revolution, and I think this how it revolves over the bars. This is the most fundamental thing about everything we've done is how how do you get something that might be really awkward and weird to kind of groove over, say, 16 bars, just or 8 bars, just to say, like, name some set, over 8 bars, or and have it be feel like it's natural, but because of the fact that it's rolling over bar lines, it's never presented the same way. You know, that means that the bar is running here and the groove is running here, but the figure is running across it in a way, because I mean you could do that with whatever, but it has to kind of groove.
Yes.
If you know
And
that's
does it
the
have to
thing.
resolve? Is there a turnaround for you?
Yeah, I mean it all, sometimes it resolves, and back in the day we let it, sometimes we let figures hit back to one and resolve as a regular blues, whatever, blues 12, you know. But the more we've ventured into this idea, the more bars it revolves over until it like hits one again. And most of the time, then we don't repeat it. So going back to Minds, Mirrors, and Catch 33, that whole thing is structured. First, it comes into as a figure where the figure is constant and the patterns of notes is there is a set of patterns that we could utilize. This is a mental, one of the few parts that we wrote, that I was part of writing, that actually had this idea. I know Frederick writes like this sometimes, Dick does as well, but I refrain from doing mental gymnastics before the fact. After the fact, I can arrange and do stuff and read, oh, this is what I'm doing, maybe I should do it this way. But this was like, if we have this set of, if we have this rhythm and we have da 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 da, those are like the figures that come in a row, but we use it like so it revolves the way I was talking about over the bar line. So when you have that, and then you set like, okay, so the first time, these are the notes we can use and how they are structured on the fretboard. So, but it cannot repeat exactly the same way it's done. So when the first,
A
then we have to take the
self-imposed
same,
rule?
huh?
Self-imposed rule?
A self-imposed rule that this is what we have to use. We can use this, the rhythm section is like this, and here are the notes we can use, and here are the patterns that we can arrange the notes, but we cannot do it exactly the same way for this many bars. And so that turns into like this one, but that's the easy part. The hard part is when it comes back and it's do, 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 where we break it up so that the rhythm has the same structure, but you make exceptions in certain places so that it feels like it flows naturally, but you've tossed out the rules just a little bit here and there. And the same thing with the notes. We're still in a diminished scale, sort of.
It's referential.
Yeah, it's referential. Yeah. So it's referential to what we did first, and it's in a diminished scale, but we tear out the rules that we set over here, but still it sounds like we're pretty much doing the same thing. That's what I'm talking about, where you go like,
degradation, it's deconstruction.
yeah. So, and that's, I think, why it's titled the way it is, In Death is Life, Mind's Mirrors. Mind's mirrors, and in death, and in life is life. It's how in death is life. It's a deconstruction of a very, very deliberate
And it
set
goes
of
down to one
restrictions.
note.
Yeah. So it's a set of restrictions and rules that you first imply that here's where this is going, and then when it repeats, it you can hear the similarities because all the building blocks are still there, but you throw the rules up the window.
Right. It's one of the strategies. I mean,
Yeah.
this was something I wanted to speak with you about.
What have you been up to? Just relaxing since coming back?
Well, it's been, there's some stuff that we need to take care of that's got to do with, we got re-releases and remasters and like, anniversaries for certain albums coming up. So there's a bit of that going on. And then we're trying to plan for the future. And we got there's been projects, like as far as the band goes, there's been a lot of projects that we've been putting to the side because of touring. Because, when we're in touring mode, it's like, we don't want to deal with that right now. Let's wait until we get home.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mopping up going on.
Okay.
And then I know like Dick's got a young son he spends a lot of time with. I mean, Frederick's working at his studio. I'm starting to renovate the house. Me and my wife are just in the plans for like pretty substantial work on the house.
Nice.
So just practical stuff mostly,
Nice.
So, and playing old timer hockey, beer league hockey, stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's fun.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And rehabbing because my shoulders are shot. So I rehab at the gym quite a lot, like 3-4 times a week. So, because I've hurt myself through the years and busted my shoulders pretty badly, and it's been affecting playing and sleeping because of pain.
Sure.
So I'm in a way better state now, but it's taken some work. I've been rehabbing pretty extensively for 2 years. So
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, the body of work, but how, busy you guys are, how physical that must be. I mean, all the shows you're playing, all the
yeah,
dates.
and then
You guys are always pretty animated, I mean.
yeah. And we're not young anymore, not like you. So we're starting to feel it.
Sure. I'll let you get back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool that it's now an institution, and the band has had, I think, a good impact on thinking musicians and obviously non-musicians as well. It wouldn't be the thing that it is if it weren't something that translated. And I was thinking,
Yeah, I think I'm just going to say something because this is something I've been thinking about. Like when people talk about that, I think maybe the most gratifying thing about being in this band, and I know I speak for all of us in this matter, is the fact that, I mean, you get like true metalheads coming to our shows. They love it. Like, okay, this is so cool. Bleed, And then you got like we could play in Germany, and there's this opera singer showing up and going like, I really like your stuff. So having that not that I mean, we're a metal band, and I get that most are metalheads of our fans, but I think that like when you hear that people from all different like genres and sometimes artists that are not musicians are very like inspired from like what you do, that's like that really blows our minds and humbles us and makes us feel very grateful for having the opportunity to do what we do.
Well, you're also responding to non-musical entities as well. That's where
Yeah.
you and Thomas and you guys are like thinking for source material, things you're responding to. I wanted to ask you about your favorite sci-fi horror stuff, and I wanted to ask if you've seen Del Toro's new Frankenstein.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm about to. So sci-fi and horror, and so there are two ways to approach this. I grew up loving like regular slasher movies and all the like the regular horror, so to speak. But and I still do. I still do. If it's done right and it hits the spot, it's awesome. But like I said, we
Any
grew up.
Japanese stuff like Houseu?
Oh yeah, Houseu and all the original Ring movies and Ju-on, The Grudge and all that stuff. Like we've
Coy
during
Brothers?
what?
Coy Brothers?
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? During Catch 33, especially me and Frederick, we plowed through like the original Dark Waters. Like the old like Japanese first wave. Takashi Miike, all that stuff, like, and we were just like, so that's something we really love. But like I was saying, like if you go really way back, me and Thomas, and I know the other guys as well, but me and Thomas especially, like huge Clive Barker fans. So everything that was, it didn't have to be Barker, but things that were really weird, oddball stuff was, and that's why I love like to merge the two genres. I love Event Horizon. That movie. I mean, it's not an altogether stellar movie. There are things about it that are pretty like generic or
But it's
whatever you want to say. But
disturbing at times.
yeah, it's this. That's the thing. It hits a nerve, and when it goes, it goes. It's there's an atmosphere and there's a mood in that movie that like chef kiss. It's like really, really, really cool. And but I mean, there's so much cool stuff.
Pan's
And
Labyrinth?
I'm gonna punch myself when we stop this interview for not bringing up a bunch of shit I really love.
Can
I
I
always do that.
can I ask you a few?
Yeah,
Okay. Pan's Labyrinth?
I love that. That's a I really really love that movie. And Del Toro has a knack for things. That story, the horror in that story is not the creature. It's not. It's the humans. It's the fascists. It's the period. It's what we do to each other. That's the horror.
Historical
But it's
drama.
told through that lens of fantastical, you know,
Surreal.
yeah, surreal. It's
Well,
it's a beautiful movie, brutal
surreal
movie.
realism.
Yeah. Which is which is a beautiful thing in itself to be able to accomplish. That movie is awesome.
I think you're going to like Frankenstein. I won't tell you anything.
No, I've heard good things, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I'm hardcore for him. And Shape of Water.
Yeah. That Shape of Water is good, and El Orfanato, the orphanage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much good stuff there.
And you are when you're doing your downtime, you're doing just family stuff, really. And
At the moment, I'm like I said, working around the house. I got I got reptiles. I keep a bunch of reptiles. I play beer league hockey. I try to go to the gym to rehab my shoulder. I need to work out because if I don't, I can't play guitar anymore.
Right.
I get too much. My shoulders are shot. We've got some physical issues.
So do you do
Some of us.
PT?
Yeah, but no, it's not really. I've worked out. I've worked out my entire life, basically. Not like bodybuilding, working out, but keeping like exercising. So I've been like working like old school rehab, so to speak. But it's it's worked for me. But I was in a bad spot like 2 years ago. We did this tour in the U.S. and Canada where we had In Flames open up for us, and that tour I had a lot of issues. I lost control of my fingers. I had tinglings, and I couldn't feel what I was doing, and I couldn't sleep at night at all, basically because of the pain in the shoulder. So then I was like, I really need to get, because I fell and busted the same shoulder that I've been having problems for 16 years. So it's been on and off through my entire career. So now I use like double guitar straps where to like offset the weight a little bit for the other shoulder and have that carry a bit of the load. But then it hampers a little bit of my picking. So it's a trade-off, but it works better, and I'm better now. I'm not in any pain now, so I'm in a good spot.
Well, you guys are road warriors, and I saw the Immutable show twice. When it came back
That's cool.
around, saw it at MSG, and it's really impressive in its range and variety, and so strategies for each piece don't get repeated. And I don't know how you do that over 30 plus years, but to have that amount of variety within what's so-called metal, I wanted to say is about contrast. And you are someone that I think it really plays heavily upon this contrast, to have the balls to go down to one guitar,
Hmm.
to go
Hmm.
down to an extended feedback event, which I think is elastic. Is that you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how that was created?
Well, that was a spur of a moment kind of funny thing that happened in the studio. So I wrote Elastic, and it was all, the the final that is written. I wrote it like that.
You play that?
Yeah. So it's like supposed to be this. Where Straws Pulled at Random is a bittersweet release. This was supposed to be a deep dive straight into hell, sort of.
Madman.
Like it. Yeah, it was like just madness. But then Frederick messed around. He was like, "We this is insane. It sounds insane. We need to like amplify that somehow." So he just
For
messed
eight
around in the
minutes?
studio. Yeah, so he just messed around with effects until it got to the point where we couldn't bear to listen to it
So
ourselves.
is the instrument on something? How is this triggered?
The thing is, I don't know what he used. I actually don't know what he used because we messed around with a lot of things. So what it ended up being, you have to ask him. The thing is just like the we just like copied the melody, and then melody, the bends, the insane bends, and then he just like pushed in all this reverb and delays and all this crap, and just let it become into a self-oscillating entity. So it moves on its own. It does its own thing. It's like electronic music almost, like it does its own thing.
Well,
The
very
the
much
effect
so.
does its own thing. What?
Very much so. I think it's almost like a process. But the
Yes.
fact that you guys are willing to suspend time to deal with sound,
Yeah.
and it's something that I love about you, is that, you are so mindful of sound and orchestration.
Well, I think that's the entire idea of why you play music. Because to us, just I don't know if this is apropos, or if I'm going off on a tangent, but when we did Catch 33 and we did that whole project kind of thing, when we ended it and we like, okay, this is it. This is the way it's supposed to be like. We were like, we can't re-record this. We've done 47 or whatever minutes of music here, or 42 or whatever it is. And we've recorded it on the spot. Every little quirk, every clean thing, all the effects, all the stuff. So we left it as is and didn't record any drums for it. Just reprogrammed them so that they actually sounded like, a drummer. The thing is that people still don't debate about it, like whether it's real drums or not. But that's kind of fun. People can still do that. But
Well, you guys are so good at it. How is everyone so good at it?
Well, the thing is that the one that's actually the real master of it is Frederick, because he's been doing the tune track things.
And he's a great drummer, right?
Yeah, he's good at drumming. He's really good at drumming. He's not a technical whiz, but he's got the he's good. But the thing is that in order to, this is a thing that I think people might not know. When I write, or Frederick writes, or Dick writes, or Jens writes a song, most of the time, pretty much 99% of the time, I write the drums too. I write everything.
Does everybody?
I don't write guitar parts. I write the entirety, and it's like, here's how it's. And then sometimes Thomas goes, well, and Frederick rarely does this because he's a drummer. So he realizes that, well, this is kind of not a natural thing for a drummer. So sometimes Thomas says, well, you're doing this fill here and you're still keeping this going. That's kind of hard to do. How do we work around that? Or he just works around it. But I've heard him say, and he said this to us, you're just bastards, because you do all this drummer shit and you program it and you have these grand ideas and then you throw it my way and I have to learn this shit. So he's like, but also he said that, well, he's thankful for it because that's what made him grow as a drummer. He is the drummer he is today because he's always constantly being challenged. He can't sit back and say, well, this is easier, so I'll do it this way. Because then Frederick comes and says, well, I have this song called Bleed. Can you?
So, dude, this leads me to Bleed. This leads me to not just Bleed, but to Rush. And to Peart, to Geddy Lee, your long-standing musical relationship completely knocks on the door of Rush's long run. Yeah. And few people can boast those relationships. So that's where I'm viewing you right now. So talk to me about that relationship and growing up, what your Rush love is like, and what the important shit is for you, because I'm come in at All the World's a Stage, and then my first show is Farewell to Kings. Okay, so first of all, the Rush freaks in this band is me and Thomas. The other guys respect them and have heard them, but they didn't know. I own their entire discography. The other guys don't. Thomas does as well, but the other guys don't. So if we start from what they meant, for me, Alex Lifeson, especially, because, that's the funny thing. I mean, granted, I'm a guitar player, but Peart was like this massive drummer god. Everybody, you could see people like air drumming at the shows, and it was a big deal, and everybody grew up like, oh, Neil Peart, have you heard this stuff? And I love him. I love his playing. It's not that. But then it was like, oh, Geddy Lee is ambidextrous, like this voice and the whole, like playing the Moog and the bass and keyboards and all that. But to me, Rush was always Alex Lifeson. Because it's the whole band. But what I'm saying is, I think he gets
he's not underrated by any means,
He's
but
foundational, though.
he's so, yeah, because it's like it's very rare that I talk to anybody through the years about Rush and people go, yeah, Rush, Alex Lifeson, it's Neil Peart and it's Geddy Lee, you know, because of, and I understand why, but to me, and I don't know, I have him to thank for a lot of things, because I think that in such a progressive and advanced band for its time and forward thinking, I think that he always displayed, even for all his playing and all the sound he has displayed a tremendous sense of restraint and having less do more.
Part writing?
Yeah, part writing. Because it's and how to utilize, you know, like you were saying, the sound, like letting the sound be the thing, the big chords, having them resonate, not overplaying it where it makes sense.
Your
to not
voicing
overplaying.
in the last section of They Move Below, I thought,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the fucking Alex Lifeson chord.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the expansive, you know, and because his playing to me, so to get things straight, my first Rush album was Signals, which is a very, I know now, weird starting point in their discography, because all the, like, you have like people like you, like, okay, coming in earlier, you know, and some people started listening to them when they turn into the more modern Rush, which for me it's not modern, but it's Power Windows and all that what came after that, and then you have the most progressive phase of the band as far as, like, you know, the intricacies of stuff like Moving Pictures, Hemispheres, Farewell to Kings, and all that stuff, and I love those albums, all of them. But the first album, and I know they don't like this album. They don't. They've been. I saw interviews where it's like, Signals were too much synthesizers, too much. It's not really what we. It was a mistake. Cool, but it was like kind of a mistake. And for me, I love that album because there's so much atmosphere. There's so much ambience to that album. For me, because that was my starting point. I've never experienced their sound, but that album has less of a progressive touch than Moving Pictures, for instance.
Agreed.
In my mind, and so I got dropped in from the less progressive end, and then discovered the back catalog.
Of course.
And so for me, the strength of Alex guitar playing has been to, like, color all these things with the chord, which is probably why I'm such a sucker for big, like, you know, the chord revolutions.
You're the chord guy, aren't you?
Yeah, because it's like with Alex, it's like, you know, da, ba, and it's like, you know, it's so few chords could do so much, and a lot of it is it's a sound as well. But for me, I was always, and this sounds very strange from a guy, I guess, playing in this band that I do, writing the music that I've done. I mean, if it's hard for a person who wrote the intro riff for New Millennium Cyanide Christ to sit and say that I'm a minimalistic composer. That sounds counterintuitive. But for me, it's never been about, I mean, Alex Lifeson and the guys that he played YYZ, like, it's very, for the time especially, very, you know, but it's about when to use what. Timing, like you were saying, contrasts. Without dynamics, especially in metal, it all turns into black metal for me. You know what I'm saying? It's like really cool when it's fast for 30 seconds and then I'm done. Because there's nothing tugging. There's nothing pulling.
Making people wait during Bleed. Making people wait during Lethargica.
Yeah.
The re-entrance.
There's this in Sweden he's famous. He's a jazz piano player called Charlie Newman. And he was excellent. He was just a great pianist. He always said that all music is in the pauses. the spaces between the notes. That's where music resides. And even though it's a kind of fancy way of expressing stuff, it's like, if you think about it, there's no brutality without beauty and pause. There is no acceleration if you're not standing still. There's no acceleration.
There's no loud without soft.
Exactly. So dynamics is something that I think is very important altogether in music and in all composition, movies, books, everything. And for me, that's something that Alex Lifeson really intuitively understood. Where to be loud, where to be intricate, but where to let things breathe, where to breathe and just let like some other cooking going on and just color it. That's why, you know, when I listen to old Police stuff, the guitar work there, like it's there's two notes there. It's a little, it's like it closes things and opens things up. It breathes.
Can I ask you about Canterbury? Were you aware of a group called Egg?
No.
Dave Stewart, organ player.
No, I've heard the names. People have referenced it, but I have never heard it.
There's a piece that points to a kind of. I was going to say, if you could talk a little bit about permutational variation and how much of your work exhibits this kind of approach to what I call putting the irrational against the rational. So the symmetrical 4 and the irrational numbers that go against it, how many repetitions these things take, and what that kind of variation situation is set up where you're now running through permutations of an idea to make it work and make yourself work over a longer form.
Well, an interesting thing is that when we write, and this is true, I think, for all of us, I'm pretty sure all 5 of us, even though we approach writing differently, slightly at least, and even though we have different takes and different strengths and weaknesses as composers, something that always happens for all of us is that, say I start a song, whatever, or I could reference when Frederick wrote Bleed, because this is a good example. There were maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of Bleed. Different triplet permutations that did different things, tonally, structurally, but they were all in the same form, but different. And then he had to kill his darlings, you know, like, okay, this song cannot be an hour and a half. So how long is, we actually voted in the studio for it. He was like, I want your help. Can we vote these parts? He stripped it down to, I don't know how much, but it was
so the form is forming in the band setting. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, can you let me know which one of these you like the most? Like, don't talk amongst yourself, but just like, what do you like? Because I've been sitting with this project for so long, I can't really tell anymore what's what. But then we all, I guess, I remember us voting away something that he still kept because he really but he wanted still to have like an inkling of where am I, and the same thing has happened to me so many times. I mean, pretty much all of the songs that I wrote for Immutable, just for an example, because this happens pretty much every album I've written for, but for Immutable, I think they move below the project in itself is way over an hour. There's varieties of certain riffs, like I've got that one in different versions with different stops and notes and bends, and where I tried out, like, is this the perfect form? So most of the time I go with the the intuitive stuff, the ones that I came up with straight away. But sometimes you have to feel things out. Like, can I make this more interesting? Is this really just an embryo of something bigger? And sometimes it is. But in order for that to happen, you have to go through all these permutations, these different forms of the same thing, and get a feel. And sometimes we probably chose wrong, to be honest. We probably could have chosen a more effective or more popular or more, if you viewed it from the outside. But from where I'm sitting, I'm trying to figure out, like, this is a cool idea, but could I make it cooler? You know, this is a great, but is this melody really the proper one? So maybe for one melody I've tried, oh, this riff is really cool. It needs a melody, and I want this melody to be here. But then I'm like, it's not 100%. So then I sit and work for a couple of days coming up with a new melody, and I end up with 30 melodies, different ones. So the permutations that remain in the music when you listen to it are a bit of a product of how the music is created. That's the best way I can put it.
I would hope you'd say that, because
Okay, good.
what I feel I'm listening to is a
Yeah.
person working through an idea
Yeah.
over the course of so-called reps.
Yeah.
And yet there's not quite literal repetition, but there's all these different ways of looking at said riff.
Yeah.
And then it resolves in some way to the next thing. And there's something very committed about it and focused about it, that
But it's loving the idea. To get back
it's
to what
loving,
we're
it's loving that idea, that cell, that trope.
Yeah.
Your intervallic things,
Yeah.
being really committed to. Do you keep track? Did you ever listen to serial composers or any of the 12-tone composers as a?
No, I think decast, but I haven't. But I should. Here's the thing that's a problem with me. When it comes to music, I'm so invested in what I'm doing that I have hardly any time to listen to other stuff.
So you have no
which I
shortage
should.
of ideas.
What?
No shortage of ideas on your.
No. And I mean, it comes from somewhere.
Are you
It's not like,
backlogged right now?
as far as ideas, yeah. I mean, let me put it like this: I got a few ideas that are. Here's how it works with me, and I think it works. This is true for all of us. You have a backlog of ideas, and some of them get outdated. So some stuff that I thought was really cool, that I really wanted to get around to using eventually, just never came about, and then now it's not really there anymore. Then some ideas, they don't get old. One example is the intro for Broken Cog. I wrote that for Obscene. Wow. But I wrote half a song. Timing and time restraints made it so that I just couldn't focus on that.
The
I had
opening
other
melody
songs
already.
the opening,
But I mean the melody on top.
not the melody, just the riff.
Okay.
Just the toms and the guitars.
Nice.
So I had that structure, and then I was like, this is really cool. Played it to the other guys. They were like, this is awesome. Do something with it. Never got around to finish the song for Obscene. Well, later then. Okay. So then comes Claus. I write an entire song, and we record, I think, most of it. And then we're like, and I was like, no. Pull the plug. This is not good enough. Cool intro riff, but the song is wrong. I couldn't tell what was wrong, but it was just. And the other guys were, yeah, you're right. They also felt like this might not be 100%. So scrap it. Okay, Close gets done, and we get into a Violent Sleep of Reason. I start writing, and I'm like, this riff, still feels cool. I can do something with this, but I'll incorporate it in my, for the projects I'm working on, start doing stuff, create a little bit, and then it's just like, no. this is a really cool riff, but this has to go to the riff yard. This is not. I can't make it work. I don't know why, but it's just a cool thing that's. I can't do anything with it. Leave it alone, forget about it, and then comes the immutable sessions, and I start writing other stuff, and I go through old stuff just to see maybe there's something I can use, because I was doing I Am That Thirst, and I was trying to figure something out about it that I really didn't know what I thought about. So I was sitting by myself, and I was like, what is this? So I was listening to a bunch of old stuff because it reminded me of something. And while doing that, totally like off topic sort of, it's like while doing that, I was like, oh, this riff, I forgot about this. So I was like listening to it, and all of a sudden I was like, this is what it's supposed to be like. The next part, the open pling pling pling, the open strings and all that stuff. So I wrote the rest of that song that I've tried to write since Obzen 2007, when we started writing for that, and I wrote it in an afternoon. The entirety of the rest of the song was just like no hesitations. I didn't change a thing. It was
Well,
just
the writing lesson here, of course, is never throw anything away. You're not in a position to judge.
exactly. So I am backlogged. I think we all are. The thing is, though, I was talking about how you're not the same person when you're 22, like when I'm 54. I've been really delving into, like, it still sounds like Meshuggah. I can't change who I am and the ideas that I get, but I write a lot of stuff that is on the cheesier side, maybe not as hard as Meshuggah, maybe not as brutal as Meshuggah, even more on the bittersweet spectrum.
Talk to me about Alan Holdsworth.
Well, Alan is Frederick's. I love Alan Holdsworth. I've got all his albums. I listen a lot to Alan. He's influenced me in the way that his creativity and the way that he unlocked a fretboard on a guitar is just amazing. And the way he unlocked it, not from a technical standpoint, but again, with that fingerprint of this is him. You can hear that this is him. You can hear when you listen to UK that was him, so
Nevermore.
Yeah. So like it's you know what I'm getting at. It's like it's him. It's his fingerprint, regardless of how like out there it is, or how he's keeping it like close to like home sometimes. But as far as like an innovator and the way his guitar tone and technique works, it's mostly been an influence for Frederick, because he emulated a lot of his early guitar playing totally on Alan Holdsworth, and I think you can hear it. Maybe not as much today, but especially the first couple of albums.
But your acrid is solo you, right?
No, that's Frederick's solo.
But you wrote
The solo is no, he all the clean parts are mine, and he played the lead for it.
How is he doing those bends? One at a time?
By the end,
Yeah.
I think it's just like a regular, just a long bend that he puts an effect on.
But not consecutively.
No. But I think so, because I was there when he recorded, but this was 95.
Yeah.
I do not remember, to be honest.
People are curious if he did each one.
Because the thing is, a lot of those stuff, the interludes and all that stuff, we never play live.
Right.
So we haven't revisited that since 95. Right. And it's 30 years ago, so I really don't remember exactly. He might, but I'm not sure.
But that idea of the lyric being a characterization of a concept. Mm-hmm. I am Kolos. I am that thirst. Mm-hmm. I am. Yes. I am. Talk to me about I am as a writing tool.
I Am as a writing tool is very much a Thomas construct, because I Am That Thirst is his lyrics, I Am Colossus is his lyrics. So I think it for now I'm venturing into guesswork. That
Okay,
has
well,
to be
you don't
said.
have to speak for
But
him, but
but I have a take on what I think it means, because we've discussed a lot of lyrics. Me and him are since we're the ones who write. We when lyrics come up, when we like throw things at the wall and see if it
what
sticks.
about
It's me and him.
rhythmatizing a phrase of lyric?
That's very important to both of us, and especially to Thomas. Thomas has this way of, you run it, and this is why. So here I'm the smart one. This is why I write lyrics after. This is not the sole reason. The reason I write lyrics after the fact is because I want the song to speak to me about what I think it represents, sort of what's suitable for the song and the lyric to work together with. But a benefit from that is that you always know. When I write a song, even if I don't have the lyrics, I know where I want the vocals to be. I know that the way Jens sounds, he would sound cooler doing da 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 there instead of da 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 da, just because that feels more
So
natural.
speak to me
And then I
about
write the lyrics.
rhythmic
The
counterpoint.
rhythmic, the accentuation and the rhythm. I write the lyrics so that it actually suits where I want the lyrics to be. For Thomas, it's a lot of rearranging sometimes. He writes it that way too, sometimes. But sometimes, like I said earlier, he's like, okay, here's a song that someone wrote. Might be him and me, might be him and Dick, might be me, might be Frederick, might be Jens. And so he goes, okay, it doesn't have a lyric. I have a lyric that's perfect. What do you think about this? Yeah, perfect topic. Go for it. But then it's like he wrote it a certain way without any preconception of what the music was going to be like. So where he really wants to express this sentence, because it's super important to the lyrical context of it all, it might not suit what sounds good musically for Jens to sing. And how you rearrange that, cut words up, edit, is it's hard. And sometimes it doesn't benefit the lyric, and sometimes it doesn't benefit the vocals. So sometimes there's parts that are rhythmically there to accommodate for the lyrics that we all in retrospect feel that maybe that wasn't the best way for the flow of the actual vocals sonically and rhythmically.
And then you're now editing again.
Yeah, so and sometimes it stays because it's just too much work to actually, because sometimes you just run out of time. So there's a lot of those things. Oh man, I mean, I guess you know this, and you've talked to a bunch of people who run into like you listen to stuff you did like 8 years ago, and you're like, why the fuck did we do it this way? So retarded. It's so obvious in hindsight. It's always 2020, right? So it's like you look at it and you're like, you listen to it and you're like, damn, you're like, oh, it's awkward. I almost never listen to us. I've heard Colosse, I think twice.
But why revisit and record things besides the 8 strings being available?
Why we
remix?
have done it.
Why redo?
Well, first of all, to be totally honest, it's a marketing gimmick for labels to say that we've remastered this album. Now it's 20 years old. Buy it with a new cover. So that's brutally honest, one part of it. But having that said, there is nothing is a perfect example where we redid the album. Frederick actually like re-recorded all the guitars and all that stuff, and there's a good reason for it. And I know some people really think that was stupid. It's like, I love nothing the way it was, the first originalist stuff. But here's the thing, as a fan, and I know this, loving different types of music, as a fan, Signals is the perfect example for Rush. They don't really like it. They have issues with it. I love it all the way through because it's the way it was presented to me and the way I interpret it and what it meant to me when I heard it.
And you heard the
Regardless
lyrics
of what,
and followed the lyrics?
yeah, and not only the lyrics, the songs, just how everything sounded, you know? So for me, it's one thing, and they aimed here, they aimed this way, and then it came out like this. I don't know that where they aimed. I have no clue. So it's the same with Nothing. We recorded Nothing during a set of circumstances that were less than ideal. I'm not going to go into specifics, but it was not a good process. And it hasn't no fighting in the band or anything, just practical reasons.
Just as a
Time
sidebar,
constraints.
sorry, but you guys have never had a fight in the entire time of the band, right?
Oh, yeah, we've had fights, but not fist fights, but I
Or
mean
you had
real disagreement, real arguments. Yes,
arguments.
but they're always intellectualized ideas. It's like I might not see it the way you do. I see it this way, and we might feel really strongly. But then we turn into this democratic Swedish type of deal where we roll like, okay, so let's vote on it.
That's so
But then the guy,
Swedish. That's
but
so
yeah, and then
Swedish.
but then the guy who wrote the song has the veto. So let's say that I wrote something, the other guys don't like it,
That's fair.
or want it to be another way, and I'm like, no, this is the way it is. Well, then we scrap it. You have it your way. You want it to be this way, but it doesn't fly for us. And sometimes there's hurt feelings. I mean, we've been together for. There's no way you can have a 35-year career and not get into
But
onto
it
each
seems
other's
like you
throat.
really choose the best stuff well.
Yeah, this is what I think is important. We've always kept the eye on the ball, on the prize. What are we doing here?
What are you?
What are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? Because if I want to do something like with the backlog, I got a shitload of stuff that I know that like this that other people are. This is cool stuff. You should do something with it, but it's not suitable for the Meshuggah. What we are doing as a band,
Morton,
our collective.
I have to tell you, sorry to interrupt, but there's an American composer, Pulitzer Prize winning composer named Samuel Adler, who's now pushing
Yeah,
100, and he has a whole lecture series of knowing what you're doing.
yeah,
Know what you're doing.
yeah. Know what you're doing. And the thing is, there's stuff that's been written by people in this band or by me to take me as an example to be like keep it to where I can actually say something about it. I I got a shitload of stuff that I think is pretty cool that I could put out a solo album or whatever. And it's going to sound like Meshuggah because it's like I said, it's me. But that's my backlog. That's things I put to the side, not because I don't think it's good enough, but it's not suitable enough. And that's a distinction that's pretty important for a band that's trying to keep the fingerprint where it's at. Because I can keep a little bit of the fingerprint and go off on a tangent, but then it's me, my responsibility, and it's my expression. But for us, we need to be comfortable, all of us, with what we're doing. Not one guy comfortable with what we're doing.
And as a
Collective.
band, you are expressing something that I wanted to ask about, which is the brutality. Or the idea I've heard Thomas speak about it wasn't brutal enough, and then it became more brutal when we did this notion. Where is that coming from? And is it therapeutic? I mean, because I really feel like I wanted you to talk about work as therapy.
Well, it's all therapy. It's all therapy. It's all therapy. I mean, it's working through your emotions. Like I said earlier, I think see music as emotions. Yes, it's a lot of other stuff as well, and we can talk about theory here and there and different like whatever. And that's all interesting. That's describing a construct. But the construct in itself is like we were saying, falling in love with your ideas. It's because of an emotion. And when you work through these types of emotions, there is a cathartic, like it's a therapeutic thing to have a release for things that may not be suitable to express in other societal spaces, for your spouse, for your kid, with your mom. Maybe there's stuff and frustrations and emotions that are not allowed to take place if you're supposed to be a good human being and kind to others and aspire to have morale, but you can actually express them someplace else. You know, that's one part of it. It's very high fluid, but it's like, you know, I feel like I'm
Were you always a futurist? Were you always thinking evolution? Are you thinking that you will someday have cybernetic enhancements?
That's a tough question. Being a sci-fi nerd, there's always been this notion of rearranging the human body according to something that's non-organic, I guess, you know. But
isn't everything organic?
but yeah, but then again, I mean, I'm really into biology. Like I said, I keep a lot of reptiles, and a lot of I don't do that because it's heavy metal to keep reptiles. I do it because I'm interested in nature. I'm interested in evolution, especially, and the way that you can keep in a fairly controlled manner, keep animals and observe and learn about how specifically they've been evolving to fit a certain niche. And the reptiles especially is pretty, as a group of animals, are pretty interesting that way. And I think that there's evolution, like you said, technological, non-biological evolution. And then there's the slow Darwinian evolution. But then there's also the evolution that happens to a human mind during the span of a lifetime. Who do you turn out to be? What choices do you make? You know, fairly rudimentary stuff if you think about it. Nothing new or special like that. But there's a difference between knowing that there's concept about this stuff out there and actually pondering them and consider, maybe not be too navel gazing either, like, why have I turned, not like that, but as a species, why do certain people tend to follow these sets of rules? Why is it, like, to go with light shortening fuse, why is it that regurgitating certain dogmas work regardless of if we're in Roman Empire times or if we're in the US 2025? Why is that not evolved out of our species? If you know what I'm saying, we got history, but I don't know who said it, but you said, like, we need to learn from history, but we never learn from history.
No, we don't.
We learn what's happened, but we don't learn to adapt to what's happened historically.
No, it's cyclical, or you know, it rhymes and repeats.
Yeah.
But
so in that manner, our music represents something too, because it's cyclical. The groupings over the bars, it's presenting the same thing in a slightly different manner so that people will find it interesting enough.
no, that's a really cool concept, and I think that the basic idea of odd over even is a really cool thing that you can just be toying with forever.
Exactly, it's a toy, and what I think is, like, people kind of sometimes not misinterpret it, because if you express it the way we say now, like the way we talk about it, it's factually correct. But I mean, all music that's repeating has some kind of small revolution over something. It might not be every part of a song,
but you're basing your whole shit on like foundationally on showing everyone this all the time.
Exactly. It's like, here's where we take a foundation and throw it everywhere, in all concepts, in all facets. It's about perspective.
Can I ask you about Colas, where there's the three-way co-writes? What did you do on Do Not Look Down?
So there's, though the three-way co-writes are different depending on what song we were talking about. So Do Not Look Down is a song that me and Thomas wrote. It was a riff. Thomas had this idea a rhythmical structure.
But there's also Fred
And
in there. Fred is co-write.
yeah. So and here's so I'm going to take two songs to make the most accurate example. So Do Not Look Down was me and Thomas writing a song, but then Frederick came in and heard it and said, well, what about if we do it like this and add this and maybe do this? So there was a song that he came in and rearranged somewhat, not a lot, and wrote certain extra part, one extra part for, and then it was like we felt that okay, me and Thomas wrote this to begin with. It's Thomas structure, my riffs, and then Frederick came in and arranged it together with us because that was a collab. And then he like added certain stuff. He was like, well, maybe. Well, let me try something, And then he wrote some stuff, and then like it all came together. So it was a true three-way collaboration like that. For instance, I Am Colossus is my song. I wrote that pretty much all of the riffs for that song except the solo part that Frederick wrote.
Oh, obviously, but can I ask you?
No, not the lead itself, the part behind the lead.
Oh, what's the group?
So
Yeah.
because I had this idea that I started writing, and then Thomas was like, I had like half a song. So Thomas was like, this is cool. So what about how if we do it like this? And then it came to be like my original parts was something that me and Thomas worked together on. And we crafted it together to be like from here to there. But then Frederick was like, well, there's something missing here and it's a bit too repetitive. So what about the lead part? So he wrote some same thing, wrote the extra parts, so to speak.
But who wrote
and
the
then
descending beat, the whole middle section?
yeah, that's from that's him rearranging my that's my thing. That's how I started the song. So he took that and made an evolution out of it, so to speak. So you like complicated a simple idea and made a whole riff out of it. But that whole part is one of the reasons we don't play it live. It's not intuitive. It's cool on the album, but we've played that song live quite a few times. But it doesn't translate good in a live environment.
The solo is haunting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. But that's but that's like also a functional thing. If you listen to that lead, it's very minimalistic, so to speak, to begin with like. That's because the heavy lifting is done by the part below. I like the part playing, because that's where the intricacies
use
are
a
going.
lot. Talk
Yes.
about that, because you always show a scale between simplicity and complexity. Do you not? Is that an obsession?
No, well, I guess, but I think that someone told me, I don't remember who, another musician said that I've found something interesting with your music. Your lead parts, I think it was Misha from, no. Well, regardless, somebody said, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, you can you'll chime in and take credit somewhere. But it was like your lead parts are so intricate. There's so much going on. Like there's so cool riffs behind the leads. And my reaction was like, that's probably true, because a lot of musicians tend to make a template where the lead, whatever it is supposed to shine. So you kind of take away as much as you can to grab attention from the lead, right? But we've never done that. The parts that you play lead on, that Frederick plays leads on, are supposed to be just as involving and grooving and happening. And sometimes they're even the most intricate parts of the entire song, if you look at it. Because we've never seen the importance of like propping something up and have an entire part of a song not suck, but be less interesting from a band's type of view just because there's a lead on it. There are places for that, but not all the time. You can have shit going on and be cooking, even though a guy is playing a cool lead on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have super complex tapping things that Fred will do, but I'm talking about like ligature marks
Yeah,
where you're layering just lines and rhythmic counterpoint.
yeah. I think that's where me and him differs. I can play lead, but I'm not a lead guitar player. Frederick always debate. He's like, dude, play this lead. You wrote it, you recorded it. And I'm like, it's not a lead, it's a melody. And he's like, what's the difference? So, but you improvise. And it's like, yeah, live I've improvised, but sometimes I've improvised half the lead. Half the lead I play exactly like it's on the album. So most of the leads are written even for him, even though it comes across as more improvised, or he chooses the one that he can replay. But for me, I'm drawn to a simpler approach for a melody. So for ligature marks, that's my lead, but I don't even see it as a lead. I see it as playing a melody. And
Yeah.
this is just semantics. This is just me being stupid.
No, but you are
This is just me
melodic.
differentiating.
You're melodic minded and you're harmonic minded in a way where the music very often seems drone or modal.
Yeah, and I think this is not one thing pitched versus the other. One is not better
No, no,
or
but it's
worse or something. But
strategies.
for me, it's like if somebody told me, well, Martin, play go all in on improvising, go all in on improvisational music and that part of guitar playing, then I wouldn't play in Meshuggah. Frederick has a tone and a natural side of his guitar playing that lends itself, his style is perfect for us. I don't have to be there and do that thing too. I provide something that he also can and sometimes does, but I focus on that when I write it. But if somebody told me that, gun to your head, you have to play improvised guitar, like when you play your leads, I wouldn't play in Meshuggah. I would play someplace else because I don't think improvising has much place in our music. It's very structured. That's why I always refer to us more as classical composers than jazz influenced. That because it's everything is written. Everything has a
The only
plan.
people that get to stray a little bit are Haka a little bit and Fred.
Yeah,
Everyone else is locked into written parts
yeah,
that the
yeah,
pitches. But can
yeah.
you talk to me about resonance and how maybe we think that these chords are unisons, but actually they're not? Like shout out to John Vullo who said to me that he thinks that Broken Cog, like those are 4-note chords or those 3-note chords. What is happening?
For the intro riff, it's actually this is why I like that riff. It's actually not played as something. It's not even a chord. The it's it's a it's a hammer on. So I play it as a tritonus chord with my left hand. So it's like I played like a four finger tritonus chord. Like when we use them a lot, it's like very voivod, and but instead of playing the notes straight down like a chord, I'm I'm tapping it. So it doesn't really ring. If in case it rings, there's something that rings through, but it's not a clear note. So I play we play for the guitar the four bottom strings and have this tritonus chord on that, but I play it ba 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 ba. So it's a mute, but not with the, but both with the palm. So it's a new technique. I half play four notes with the palm mute, but the hammer on is also kind of a mute, which makes it be that like
This interest in the percussive different types of percussive syllabication fascinates me for you guys, and clearly you did something there where these are dead notes, correct? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
okay,
They're dead
so
notes.
they're called dead
But it's
notes.
important that they're played as a tritonist, because if you just play it with like a barré, like a flat finger, it won't sound the same
No,
at
no, no,
all.
no, no.
There's an underlying dead note resonance in there,
So
but that's the love for the idea.
that's such an idea. And so, you know, honestly, to me, they come across as gunshots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that
That's
part
cool.
of,
That yeah,
am
yeah,
I
yeah.
close?
But I haven't thought of it that way. But yeah,
They're
it's
kind of
it's a,
disturbing.
yeah, it's a way to. When I came up with that riff way back, I heard the rhythmical. I was sitting with my guitar, and I was like playing something totally different. I was playing the what was the verse for Provus, because that's also a tritonus chord, and I just heard this like I don't know why. I just heard this thing, but then I just heard the rhythmical part that it would be that turn of phrase in the middle of the figure. So when I tried to play it, I just played it that way. It's very strange because it wasn't like I should play these dead notes. It was just like all of a sudden resurrected some kind of funk bass player, like playing slap bass, but with this hand for dead notes, and that was the way it was supposed to sound. Because if you play it, you know, the regular chug thrash metal way, it don't sound the same.
What noise or classical or avant music would we be surprised to know that you guys are into?
Well, here's a strange thing. I am not sure what everyone else listens to nowadays. Not that we don't listen to music together on the road, but usually it's like, oh, put on something old, some, you know, so that everybody knows that this is gonna fly. So Master of Puppets with Metallica or whatever. But something that most of us, not I don't I'm not I don't know about Dick actually, but something that we really went hardcore into for a while, and I still enjoy the hell out of it, is pretty avant-garde, but pretty advanced electronic music. Autechre, Square Pusher, Apex Twin, that type of thing, in that ballpark. That's something that really resonated with us because somehow there are it's not because it sounds like us, because it doesn't, but there are overlapping factors with our music within what they're doing that is actually more similar than a lot of stuff that other metal bands are doing, overlapping with our music, if that makes sense.
Well,
So there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens with what they're doing. And you were talking about the brutality. Brutal is true, but I would like to say that and this rings true to why we like Square Pusher or stuff like that. There's an energy, even the slow parts, even the droning stuff, like there's an energy to it. Same thing, I think, when I wrote They Move Below, it's a very slow song, but there's a residual heavy energy there at its core that moves. It moves. It doesn't sit still. And that's something that I feel that, so a lot of electronic music. But then I mean, something that probably surprises people a lot, and I hate this because she's been copied to death by so much mainstream pop singers or producers. I mean, before she broke through, not a lot of female pop sounded like this. Now, half of it does. If I go to the gym and they play a energy radio or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's like this, I can hear her, and that's Imogen Heap. Imogen Heap I mean, it's electronic pop. It's wonderful,
how about
most of it.
Bjork?
Bjork is awesome. Very, very good. And the funny thing is, I talked to he says, I don't want to get his name wrong. Guy Sigismund. He actually produced and worked with Bjork. He also worked with Imogen Heap on a joint project called Fru Fru when she started out, when she was really young, and then she came into her own and went on her own career. But I mean, it's impressive. Imogen does everything herself. She produces, she plays, she writes, she sings, but she has a creativity to her. She has a fingerprint. She has something that's deeply moving, and she's bittersweet a lot of the time. So I think that's probably an artist that's me. I think it's just me that listens to her, but I really love her stuff. And for people who listen to what I write, I think it's kind of surprising maybe that I listen a lot to her.
Do you listen to a lot of ambient music, or have you in the past?
Yes, we've listened to a lot of ambient. The funny thing is, we've been very. This is something I'm proud of. We've been very first couple of years very much metal, yeah, like teens. But even early on, I listened to hip hop, and now hip hop is a totally different thing. I'm talking about. I was like 11. It was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and Public Enemy's first album and stuff like that, like the old school real emergence of hip hop sort of, and I still enjoy some hip hop. I refuse to be an elitist. I refuse to look down on music for the sake of it being a certain genre. I always say that all genres suck and all genres are excellent. It's just a matter of finding what speaks to you.
It's like sci-fi.
Exactly like that. There's a brand there that doesn't work, and there's a brand there that's just right for. So it's like that. But I think most of us are like that, because I had a friend, a drummer, a great drummer. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But he just stopped playing the drums, stopped playing in bands, and turned into like a hip hop producer, Swedish hip hop producer, and had his own band and did stuff like that. And we were friends, and he played a lot of hip hop to me that I was like, what's this? This is really good. And he's like, yeah, every time I play something to you, you sound surprised that you're liking it. But I know your taste, and this is up your alley. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So after a while, I realized that kind of weird that I think that Mystical is an awesome rapper. But if you listen to it, he's like, everyone in the band loves him because it's like listening to the best beatboxer. He's so percussive. It doesn't matter. His lyrics doesn't matter. It's like somebody playing this awesome fucking drum solo,
Like Kendrick.
all the time. Yeah, it's really. I mean,
It's
and
so
going back
precise.
to rhythm. Yeah, it's like playing the drums with your mouth, and it's some people just do it a way that's it just hooks you.
Yeah. I mean, we're all obsessed with music, but it's interesting to me that also words still maintain importance.
Yes.
Do you ever think that the lyric writing in metal, where this vocal approach is happening, sort of belies the importance of the music and that vocal choice and different ways of producing that vocal choice? Why is that ingrained? Although I know you've done some whispering and different kinds of spoken word things. Are you satisfied with that aspect of it, given the fact that we've talked about instrumentalism and how the
Well,
words are represented?
I think that when it comes to if you're talking about the style of vocals, if we're disregarding the lyrics themselves and just talking about the pure style of how the vocals come across, and disregard the whispering and spoken parts because they're more of a, we enjoy it and we think it adds something, but it's more of a, like, here and there, where it's like where the setting demands something else than just rabbit barking. So I would say that how we write for vocals and the way Jens sounds is very much a product of how we grew up. Um, the we've always seen vocals in our music as more or less a purely percussive instrument, not a melodic instrument, and that's pretty self-evident. And I
Great
mean
Against the
that,
Machine.
yeah, and stuff like basically just not having letting the melody come across in the guitars and the bass and the string section. So, and it's not that we got anything against it, but it's like we grew up with the type of metal that sounded like that. You know, it's like it was very much what attracted us to is what was that aggressive off and on, that punctuation, the way you could emphasize certain parts of a rhythmic idea by putting vocals on them rather than have someone sing a beautiful melody across it, you know. And I think we could have done more with it. We could have changed it up. We could have had a more progressive approach to the vocals, because maybe the least progressive part of our music has been the vocals. If you compare the way the lyrics or the vocals sound on the Destroyer album, for instance, and the Immutable, it's changed not so much. But then again, it's about that fingerprint. Vocals are so important to a band that if you change that up, you significantly change the fingerprint and the sound of the band. And that's fine if you've always been Mike Patton. If that's your thing, to be a jack of many trades, jack of all trades, and be very good at it, that's the fingerprint. But I think we've been stuck in this idea that this is the way it's supposed to come across. So in some ways, and this is just occurring to me now, we are a progressive band, but we're also traditionalists.
I want to point to a tradition that I was just thinking you might connect with. The vocal introduction to the first part of Cygnus X1.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. But that's the thing where something happens that's not at all in the box, so to speak. Something happens there where you have a narrative idea. It's more a narrative than a vocal, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think that's, I mean, to some extent, that's what our spoken vocals do as well. Just not quite as narratively, but sort of in between.
You're always thinking outside the box, aren't you? A little bit.
I think it's not thinking. It makes us sound like we're smart asses that always try to.
You are outside the box.
Yeah, I think we get back to this all the time about that. Love your idea. I think it's a matter of taste. We want, when we write something or when ideas come up, it's something that we would ourselves be attracted to, something we would like. And if you're a person who've always been attracted to the weirder parts of stuff, music, literature, whatever, it's kind of natural that your ideas would come kind of goofball from the left field as well, you know?
Were you guys aware of Marinetti and the Futurists?
No.
Italian?
Not me. Not me, at least. I don't. Tell me about it.
Well, they're World War I kind of fascist, but they're preaching about airplane motors being parts of compositions, and I was thinking about the importance of motors and the motoric and machinistic sound of what you guys are doing, and if you had come from machinery, or if machinery was a central image, and also the serpent imagery.
Well, the serpent imagery is something that is a bit of a mixed bag. It's because me and Thomas have been in, especially me, but Thomas as well is interested in reptiles. But it's the serpentine thing is very suggestive. The Ouroboros and there's a lot of what do you want to call it, old school imagery from the Asclepian snake. For like, there's the snake can mean so many things. It could be a representation of evil, temptation. It can be the healing arts. It can be the world eating itself and everything being cyclical. There is so much imagery in human culture and history bound to the serpent, and concepts bound to the serpent. So it's a very useful tool
Do you
that has
come
suited us well.
do you come from a very highly rated school system as a child?
Nope. Public school, always.
So you are self-educated.
Yes.
You continued.
But Swedish school system is, or at least used to be, pretty good for what it was. But no, none of us have any higher
Oh,
education or
you
came
have
from
you have
any.
intellectual curiosity.
Yeah, I think we're curious, and we're explorative, and we're like interested in stuff.
And are you
I'm
sorry?
no, I always said that I find that this. Some people say, "Well, I'm getting older; things are the same." I don't feel that way. I feel that one lifetime is way, way too little. I want one lifetime to pursue a hockey career. I want one lifetime to play PS5 video games. I want one to only play certain different instruments, or at least just play instrument all day long. There's so much cool stuff to do and pursue. There's just not enough time. So, and all of us are interested in different stuff. We have interests that really fire, like that are passionate. And I think passion is a key word, regardless of who you are. Because if you have a curious mind, you stay alert. You're interested in what's going on. Even though you might not enjoy or like everything you're seeing around you, it makes you think about things. It makes you not turn off and check out.
Are you still enjoying playing shows?
Yes. The shows, I'm not when I'm in pain, but and sometimes it's hard nowadays. But I would like to say that playing shows has always been awful and wonderful at the same time. I've played way over 1,000 shows in my days. I don't know how. I mean, I know it's way more than 1,000. We did like just thought about it once, and it was like we've been on the stage quite a lot. Not the most touring bands ever, but we
You
played a
guys
lot.
played a lot.
We played a lot through the years. We've been doing this a long time. So, but the one thing that really stays the same from the first time me and Thomas hit the stage at 13 at school, at a Christmas show, and to like last show I played, is that why are we doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? There's so much angst about performing, being good enough, having this, like, being the most you can be and being on point every night, not being run of the mill, nonchalant, going up there and fuck this, I've been doing this for so long. Because if you do that, you've lost your spark. Every show can't be perfect, and we're not aspiring to perfection, but the pursuit of it, the passion to have to like love your craft enough to know that these people and us are going to have a ritual,
But
a
Mårten,
cultural ritual every night. But at the same time, when we go up on stage, I love it because then I'm in the zone. I can feel it's the best thing ever. But just before you go on stage, it's like, oh, here we go again. It's game time. I think a professional athlete probably feels the same. They love playing the game, but there's a bit of apprehension before you're supposed to play the Super Bowl,
it doesn't hurt. It doesn't
No,
hurt.
I think it's important to feel that way. Bruce Dickinson said something really interesting once. Somebody said, like, well, are you nervous when you go on stage still after all these years? And he's like, the day I'm not a little bit tingly in the stomach when I go on stage, I should quit. There's supposed to be nerve there. This is performance, and like I said, a cultural ritual together with 50 or 50,000 people, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's something we experience together tonight. And what I bring to the table is gonna, and what the other guys in the band and what we do together and what the crowd brings is gonna set what tonight became. And every night is supposed to be important.
So it's always been the sacredness of the ritual. Your
Yeah.
culture is of that musical ritual. You guys have never
Yes.
gone away.
No, we refuse to. I mean, granted, if I'm running a high fever and it's day 35 of a tour, and it's, there are days that are less than perfect, but I'm not supposed to give that as an excuse for not trying to be the best that I can. And that's something I think we're brought up with a little bit, like from my father and like all of our parents, that like you aspire to something. We all know by this time, being this old, that you can't be perfect all the time. You're going to walk off stage and feel that that was not the best show we've ever had for one reason or another. But if there's one thing I've learned through the years, is that we can walk off stage any given night, anywhere in the world, and we can walk off stage, and I'm feeling like shit. I had a rough night. I played poorly. I was not there the way I wanted it to be. I fucked up on certain parts. I just feel like, why am I doing this? I'm really, really in a bad mood. And if we walk off stage and in comes Dick, for instance, this was one of the best shows we've had in years. Sounded awesome. Good work, everyone. This was fucking spectacular. And I'm like, dude, where have you been? And it's like, and Thomas is like, well, yeah, I thought it was cool too. And Freddie was like, oh, not the best. So what I'm saying is that it's very rare that we have the same experience, all five of us. It happens, but not every time. Some nights, and you got to realize that it's very subjective, because I'm standing there playing, and like our sound guy has been with us since 97, so a while. Or 98, and he's like, you guys were good tonight. I'm like, I play like crap. And he's like, dude, sounded spectacular. Don't sweat it. And then I know he's heard us since 97, 98. He thought it sounded good. It sounded good enough.
When did you go no amps?
After the Chaos Sphere touring, when we did After Nothing, we started with the Line 6.
And you felt like why that was necessary?
Well, back then, the reason was just practical. It's way easier to have a Line 6 rack or pod or whatever we started using. It was a pod first and then the Line 6 racks, and just fly across to the US or England or go down. I mean, it's just so easy. We got all the sounds that we've all the presets and everything, and we just plug it in. It doesn't take a lot of space. Like going for the Ozfest, for instance, million of bands playing on the same stage. Time is like this. You don't have any set changes, like, and it's like you're gonna have to like run all this gear up. You have to have crew, all that stuff. It's just like, this sounds good enough. And especially in a setting like that, I get it if you're Metallica and you can set it up all the way you want. We could now too, but back then it's like, well, I need to run my amps. It's can't be digital. And it's like, dude, somebody's gonna run your amps up the stage, slap a mic on it half-assed because there's no time, and then you're going to play an amphitheater in front of 20,000 people.
So you've always
with a stressed out sound engineer.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that there's going to be so much of a difference that you had a cabinet? Come on.
You want more control.
Yeah, control.
Delivery.
Yep.
Impact.
Exactly. All that stuff. You raise the bar for the floor. You raise the floor. Maybe there's a little bit of drop off in the high end of it, but the floor, you raise it every night, you deliver something better because you're being consistent. You're making sure you're consistent. Nowadays, the digital stuff sounds so fucking good, it doesn't really make sense anyways. But back then, there was a difference. But it was just like, how do we make sure that we can be the best we can be every day, in and out, for everyone, not for us, but for our crew. Our sound engineer knows exactly what's going to come off that stage. He doesn't have to worry about the stage resonating or the somebody running into the amp and setting it offset and whatever. Doesn't matter.
I've never seen anything go down on a Meshuggah show, and the sound quality of a live Meshuggah show is beyond belief. It's just the right amount of loud, and it's so clear and powerful.
Yeah, Thomas Judas, as we call him, he's good.
It's so good, bro. And just that's a standard, and that's you guys caring about sound and the way that you recorded Violent Sleep and how obsessive that was about sound.
Yeah, but studio is a different thing. Studio, you can mess around with stuff. You can bring in amps. We brought in, like, and some recordings have been plugins, and some recordings have been a shitload of amp testing, and that's more of a way of finding the process that's right for now, feeling that this is a challenge, this is stimulating to us to go back to amps for this one and record it in this manner again. And then when you've done that, it's like, okay, we envisioned this and it was cool and it was good, but there's no reason for us to do it again, because then we'd be retreading the same ground. Sure. So you have to, you know what this is like. When the older you get, the more important it is to have it make it feel fresh. Take all the steps you can to make it feel as fresh as possible to keep the spark up.
So has that been part of how you keep it going over 30 plus years, where the writing teams and the affiliations between band members and the way that you keep things fresh is somebody can work by showing a completed demo is a completed, you learn this, or that this is something that we work on together, or this is something where it's layered, or this is something where something from 5 years ago comes back. It's like everything's on the table. Can you talk about how that contributed to the evolution of this band over this time span?
Well, it's been a natural progress for us and a natural process. It's not something we've set. I mean, to illustrate how poorly we execute certain things. When we decided that, okay, it's about time to write for Immutable, we need to make another album. We had a meeting, like we sat down and talked it through. And my initial idea was like, okay, so we've always made these like pretty long albums, long songs and whatever. I want to do our Rain in Blood. I want to do not a 20, whatever it is, but instead of 43 minutes or whatever music, maybe we can keep it to 35. A more condensed effort, something more compact, and see what happens to us in this day and age and our sound if we have that approach. Turns out we made the longest album we've ever done. It's a double album. So sometimes our intentions are very much not followed through upon. It's very hit and miss. But as far as the process, we've let every project dictate its own terms at the beginning. So now we are here. Now we're stepping in. Next time we start writing for an album, when we decide that now we start for real to look at the next album, something's going to crystallize. Somebody might say, let's do it this way, and everybody goes, yeah. Or somebody says, let's do it this way, and we're like, let's see what happens. But something's going to get the ball rolling, and then something happens. We are fortunate enough to let the process lead us and be able to do it. It's not that preconceived, but sometimes it's like, let's do it this way, and sometimes it's just practical. We're going to make an album. Where are we right now? Like, nothing. We're going back to that. Why do you re-record stuff? Why remaster stuff? We discovered that's a different story, but we discovered the 8-string and the reason why we wanted to try the 8-string, and that came about for different reasons. But Nevborn Fredrik, who built the original 8-strings for us, did not have 8-strings for us when we wrote For Nothing.
Yeah.
But we had played a prototype 8-string. So we've had it, played it, tried it, knew what it sounded like, what you could do with it, and we're fired up about it. Me and Fredrik especially were like, this is cool. And then we'd like, but we don't have one to write on. And we want to write the next album on an 8-string. It's going to be so cool. New sound. This is excellent. So we took 7 strings and tuned them down. Well, short scale, not the right tension. They were wobbly. Recording the guitars for the original Nothing recording is the worst thing I've ever done in a studio setting. It was horrible. So we hear artifacts of that when we hear the original, that people probably go, oh, this sounds cool. But it was not intended like that. So when Fredrik came up with the idea, I'm going to re-record the entire fucking album, I was like, yeah, go for it, because it would be nice to hear what it sounds like when we record it with real instruments.
Yeah. I obviously, Zappa went back and changed things, and, when things weren't ideal for that time period. And I think you should have final say.
Yeah, and also the original is there. If you don't like say you want to remaster it because you feel that it's lacking this or that, whatever. Okay, you do that and you have the remaster, and people go, oh, I don't like the remaster. Okay, listen to the original then. It's not like we take that away.
Why was Immutable remastered so quickly?
Well, that was remastered because that was one of the things where they wanted to make. Okay, this is taking you behind the curtains, but certain things around that release didn't go down the way they were supposed to. Let's just leave it at that. Business-wise, the way it was distributed, the way it was, certain things happened that was not 100%. So, especially for the US market, the record company wanted to make it a re-release just to have something to tell people that, okay, here's how we should have released it. It didn't get the attention it deserved, but especially it was more technical and delivering problems. There were things that happened that were, from a marketing or sales standpoint, very much less than ideal. Let me put it like that, to be diplomatic. And so they said, well, how do you guys feel like you could remaster it? And matter of fact, we were pretty happy with the original master and the sound of the album, because it differs a little bit from what we usually did. We've tried some new stuff, so to speak. But in the process, we forgot certain things. We forgot to focus on certain things that were pretty evident looking back on it, that maybe, okay, this is cool, but there are a few pretty simple tweaks we could do to make it resemble more what the ideal would be. So when the record label was like, would you mind coming up with some idea for like a new cover or some extra songs or something for like a re-push? We were like, what? Well, we could remaster it to actually get to fix those things. And I've seen reactions, and friends of mine have been like, why are you remastering an album that's so new? And I get the reaction, but then again, it's like, if you really have a reason to remake something, why would you wait? I mean,
I agree.
if so, it's not like, is there a statute of limits to like how old an album must be for it to be okay to be remastered? I guess because to me, the reason for just wanting it to sound different is reason enough.
Ideally, getting the sound the way you want it.
Yeah,
and in a
exactly.
fluid digital environment, we're able to do this.
Yes.
I'm behind it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to rethink how we deal with this stuff. But people will always be stuck with their original.
And that's fine. I'm all aboard with that. I can be like that too with other things. Like, why did they fuck up the original with this and blah 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 remakes of that? And why did they do this? What's the reason for remaking this movie? It's like I get all of that, but I also know that as a creator or like when you've done something, you want to get it as right as you can. Get it out off your chest. Like, you don't have to think about it anymore. Like nothing. Even though people might not like the re-recording, we know that, okay, this is what the fair shot to the ideal was and how that would have sounded or what it sounds like. And we got the chance to do that. So it's all good. You can choose your preference. It's fine.
So you guys are going to kind of chill and then we'll see what happens kind of thing. Is that what's going?
No, well, yeah. The plan is to mop up all the different things that have been left by the wayside because of touring and recording and whatever. I'm not going to go through everything, but there's a lot of small projects in the air. There's some reissues and remasters, and there's Derek Johnson, a guy who actually is amazing. He's actually notated and made tabs for all of our music, all of it, and he's worked his ass off for years and years and years, and has nothing to show for it. And we're trying to make something happen with that one way or another. So there's like small projects here and there, other stuff too. But the idea is for us to have 26 totally off touring, and then 27 will probably tour, but the format is a little bit too early to talk about because it's not going to be album related per se, obviously, because we finished up the Immutable touring, but we got some ideas. We're thinking about trying something out. We'll see what happens. It's too early to say 100% what it's going to be, but that's something we're going to address this next year. And then when we're done with that, if we can pull it together, touring wise, I guess it's album cycle again. We've discussed. We never assume that we're going to make a new album then and then and then. It's something that like marinates. We tour, we finish, we take a breather, and then it's like, okay, is everybody on board with this stuff again? And how do we feel? What do we want to do? Like as far as process
Well, it seems like somebody kind of takes the reins a little bit differently each project.
yeah, and also it's like but that's true. But then again, it's always like this is what we're going to do, and then it turns out to be something else. It always has its own life. It always for some reason, and that's something I think we enjoy. We try not to. We control so much. We're so controlling of everything, like how things should sound, like the live process, the like how our fingerprint and sound is supposed to be like. That some things must be left to its own accord. Like be organic truly, and how the creative process evolves through the project is one of those things, because then it always turns out for the best that way.
Mårten Hagström, what a pleasure to chat with you about these concepts.
Likewise, Greg, it was really, really nice.
I wish you guys all the best. Always so good to get into a deep chat about this music that we love, and there's a lot that gets put into it. And
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, we're a bunch of guys who get to do what we grew up aspiring to do, love doing, our hobby or our lifestyles. The music is a lifestyle, and obsess about it, and go way too deep into concepts about stuff that's at the end of the day just music. It's something people, some enjoy it, some hate it, some, it's what it is. Sometimes I feel it's like a bit of a too much of a high concept. We're not curing cancer or anything, but it's very, very nice to get to go in depth and really nitpick through, because at the end of the day it's been a long career for us. We've done this for a long time. So thank you, because it's been like introspective for me as well, because I get to think about stuff that I rarely do, doing the dishes at home. So
Well, anytime, and would love to speak to any of the guys about this experience, because it really is a stand alone one of one that I would point to as a unit being successful in delivering and maturing and growing, and against all odds, because I know what you must have experienced where people are like, what the fuck,
yeah, yeah,
what are they doing? It's
yeah.
just, and I saw the video. I went back. I've been watching to prepare for this, the older videos of you guys playing for a half hour, an hour before opening for somebody, and what people must have thought that you were out of your minds.
Most people hated it.
Did they really?
Well, to begin with, first couple of years, why don't you play regular metal songs? What somebody said, this was way later though, but somebody said once, why don't you play straight and manly music like Slayer? and there's been a lot of the early years. I mean, not recently, but the early years. It was like, why are you messing up so much? It's like you guys can play your instruments. There's no reason to be this
Sloppy.
yes, and awkward and doing this shit that nobody wants to listen to. Nobody understands what you're doing. This is metal. This is not some fucking like arts project. This is metal. Don't fucking, it's like,
This ain't high concept, bro.
yeah.
This is just
And
metal.
I remember, and there's actually something to this, but I remember this one in '96. There was a live review of us playing at a Swedish small festival in a place called Sala, and the reporter wrote, "I've heard a lot of good things about this Meshuggah band, Swedish metal band, but they're not like Entombed or the good bands. And I know people. I saw them live, and they're good at playing their instruments, but dude." Nobody lauds an author for being good at the typewriter.
Wow.
But there's something to that though. I mean, I think it was fair critique to some extent. But then again, it was like, people did not people and we were people who enjoyed us back then, not everyone, but in Sweden coming up, we were a curiosity. Let's go watch this band. They're insane. I don't get anything. It's a mindfuck,
Why am I so easily seeing it as an adaptation of all these things that came before it and making sense? So you've
Because
got,
you're an American.
oh,
You got a different cultural disposition. There's a reason that, like in nowadays now they don't at all, but I've seen Rush once, and that was at the Globe or it's called Avicii Arena now. But I mean, they barely toured Europe at all, like in the 80s and 70s. But they were super huge in Canada and the US. So I gotta say that not today. It's not true today. It's different. But through the 70s and 80s and early 90s, progressive music had a way easier time in North America. There was way more acceptance towards progressive music than generally in Europe.
that's really interesting. Because I think also regionalism plays a big part in you guys being your own thing.
Yeah,
that you're not
Probably.
part of a major scene. You're your own thing.
Yeah, I'm from up in the sticks in the north. Yeah, so yeah, true.
Well, Mårten,
Well,
thank you. This has been beyond a pleasure.
thank you. Pleasure. Likewise.
Everybody, Mårten Hagström, the PROGCAST. Thank you all for listening. Please hit us on Patreon, like, subscribe, let us know your thoughts. You're not going to find this anywhere else,
Nope.
right?
Nope. You're
Thank you,
not.
sir, for all of the great music, all the great ideas, all the inspiration.
Thank you. This was good timing. My battery's dying.
Okay,
I'm doing it on
plugged
the
in.
phone.
Thank you for the extra energy and extra everything.
You're so welcome.
Peace.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye bye.